episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. Yes, it is I, your host for the night, Radicat, and you can find me at Radicat at News Nerds Need, at Radicat on Twitter, CB Caps on Instagram, the News Nerds Needs Reddit, and yeah, pretty much it. And with me tonight, as always, the man behind the soundboard, our man in Brooklyn, Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
Diehard Mets fans unite.
LFGM.
Yes, been seeing a lot of that from you and a couple other people. I'm like, okay, calm down. And also with us tonight, Mr. Pop Culture Network himself, PCN_Dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, PopCultureNetwork.com, and all of his umbrella sites. Okay. For some strange reason, muted himself.
He's showing off?
Yes, he is. He is also showing off. Okay, all you need to say is, oh, hello, I didn't see you there. If you are watching the video, you will know what he's sharing with.
Yes.
Some sort of contraband book. I don't know. We don't.
Yes, I was going to mention for those of you who are listening via podcast, you are missing out a little bit if you're not tuning into the YouTube feed via the Click Nation. And I would also mention that we are still working out a lot of the bugs and gremlins in our system in our move over to Lightstream, but I think we're getting a lot closer.
But we got most of them worked out, and thankfully that should be apparent in this video. Got the switching is going straight, audio's straight. When we do the news section, it's all mostly gravy. And with that, Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, who's not with us tonight, but also with Spirit. In Spirit, he is with us. You can find him at that on Twitter, on the CB Cron on Twitter, the Click Nation on Twitter. That's DKLIQNATION. And I'm going to drop the stream output thing because that's distracting. TheClickNation.com, and also Comic Book Resources, where he's over there writing his face off. So go check him out over there while we do this over here. Hopefully he will be back with us at some point. But you know, you got priorities, you got things going on. That being the case, you can find this here wonderful podcast on the Cold Slither Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You'll be joining us soon and all that kind of good mess. We should definitely recount the story of that one of these days. Hopefully we'll have Classic on and we'll do that all up. Maybe even Tim and Dick Eclectic. I don't know. We'll have a reunion.
That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, really. You know, he's kind of hard to get. He's all mysterious on and all that. But whatever, shout out to Eclectic. You can also subscribe to this here podcast program. He's a podcast also on Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, although they're getting rid of iTunes, so that's probably going to be another thing in it for a while. Spotify and the Cold Slither Podcast Network SoundCloud page. And with that, folks, we will be getting into the books of the week. And we're going to start off with the aforementioned Powers of 10, a.k.a. Powers of X, for those, you know, really in the know. Number 2.
Right. So Powers of X number 2 is coming right off the heels of Powers of 10 number 2. Is coming right off the heels of House of X, because this is how I wanted to start. Is coming off of the heels of the reveal in House of X number 2 that, spoiler alert, for those of you who are still a little bit behind, in House of X number 2 last week, it was revealed that Moira McTaggart has been a mutant all along. And exactly. And the effects of that reveal continue to be felt in Powers of 10 number 2 this week, and we see how this particular storyline sort of comes to pass because of the knowledge that Moira McTaggart, as a result of her mutant ability, is able to bring to this incarnation of herself, and everything moves forward from there. So this issue contains a lot of world building. It establishes a lot of what has happened and what can happen, and it actually incorporates more of the obscure and distant X-Men references that some of the longtime fans will recognize. Like, there are elements of the Phalanx Covenant in here. There are elements of that's the one that absolutely comes to mind as a reference. So also, we've seen Master Mold, but one of the older incarnations of a future X-Men, a possible future of the X-Men, involves the Nimrod Sentinel, and that is a big aspect of this story as well. So all in all, this was an okay installment of the House of X / Powers of 10 kind of dual miniseries. It's not as earth-shaking or as world-changing right, or as world-changing as as House of X #2. So yeah, this issue of Powers of 10 is definitely a lot more filling in some of the blanks and building up the world as it has come to be as a result of the reveal of Moira McTaggart's mutant ability.
So here's my question. I kind of already know the answer to this, and it's really a non-question because obviously it's not. But because we can basically say Moira set all of this stuff in motion, wouldn't that make her the de facto leader of the of all of the whole thing, with the exception of not actually doing any of the making many of the hard choices? Because she's really the one that's pretty much setting this stuff in motion by giving the information that she gave to Charles and Magneto and probably anybody else who comes along.
Right. It turns into more of a triumvirate more than it ever has been.
Right.
It was more of a duality with Xavier and Magneto being the yin and the yang. But now there's much more of a three-way Dragonhead for the head of the X-Men.
Sure. And there was something
much more King Ghidorah.
There you go. Which, man, that's a nice reference right there. Because shout out to MF Doom. Yeah, that was the only thing. I think we pretty much exhausted that. Because the only other thing I was thinking about, something I was thinking about after we talked last week about House of X. And I think I said on Twitter was that I wouldn't be surprised in some way somehow that Moira ends up being Destiny, since she's kind of showed up and seems to know everything that needs to know about Moira and her subsequent lives, including how to snuff them out.
It's an interesting. I don't
think that's gonna play out, but it seems like it wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
Right. It's definitely a way to incorporate the power into what we've seen before.
Right. Because how else would Destiny have known? Okay, she's a mutant that season. Like, we've had those in the past. Hey, remember that one Inhuman that we had that was supposedly saw the future? Where'd that dude go?
Right.
But anyway, that was just me pondering some stuff. So yeah, Powers of 10 #2. That's pretty much. I really don't have anything else to add to that, really, because what it is, and if we get out of it.
Does this feel like Hickman's love letter to the X-Men, or does it feel like let's throw everything at the wall and see what sticks?
Probably a little bit of both, but more probably the former than the latter, though.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think it definitely is a love letter to the X-Men, but I think there is I think in Hickman's mind there's a pretty clear end result that he's going towards. So,
and plus, usually in such love letters, I would like to believe, like, granted, we've got a lot of things thrown at us at this point, and there's some cuts, as we mentioned before the show, that have come up here. There would be a lot more thrown at us. Like, it'd be like, say, one one way or another, like a Rosenberg run, where it's like, hey, almost every 90s reference kind of just pops up, or 90s villain kind of just ends up popping up. So one way to like, hey, remember this person? They're back, and da 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 da.
Right, and now they're dead.
Right, or
that's
something.
Sort of, yeah, that's sort of.
We're not getting that kind of stuff in this, but who's to say that won't happen at during this whole course? Because we still have a bunch of issues of these two separate miniseries. So,
and shout out to RB Silva, Adriano Di Benedetto, and Marte Gracia on art, on pencils, ink, and color, respectively.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, they're doing high level stuff on these books.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of books that are at a high level, let's get to our next one, which is Fantastic Four number 13.
Wait, is this the weed issue? Is that why it's on a high level?
Oh no! I mean, we're not like Mike Tyson over here running, smoking through 40 grand of weed a day.
We're a couple of months and a few hours away from where that's so applicable, but
right. So just to reset the stage, in the last issue, Ben Grimm and Alicia Masters Grimm are on their honeymoon, and what happens?
Yeah, shenanigans of a superhero short, because you can't have a book where people just kind of go and have a good time and let it go. We're also running up against a time, because just so happens that Ben will be able to become human, or at least as of last issue, in 24 hours while they're on their honeymoon. But of course, shenanigans happen in the form of a classic battle for all the ages.
Right.
You pretty much guess who that is, whereas the Thing and a certain other Emerald Giant, where it happens to come in. What we find out though is that the battle is not without, I want to say, I don't want to give too much over it because this is what it is as far as them two battling, but so the Hulk comes in.
There's a lot of great little moments in this, and that's really where this issue shines.
Right.
First off,
more to the battle than just them battling. That there's an outside force, but it's an outside force that only has partial control, apparently.
Right. Well, the issue really shines in as I was mentioning, in some of the smaller moments, and some of the asides. First off, the Thing admits wholeheartedly that the Hulk is stronger.
Yeah.
And it's right away. But as Roddy Cat mentioned, the Hulk in his current immortal state is kind of a weird scenario, because we understand that the Hulk is under the influence of an outside force in this, who is not a stranger to the Fantastic Four or to Ben Grimm and Alicia Masters. So that's a big hint right there for any of you guys with any sort of knowledge of Fantastic Four history and canon.
And another little note that happens to come out with that little pairing, we found out that something that happened, which we knew was going to come up at some point. There was a secret that was, I don't want to say kept, that never got brought up from when Ben and Alicia, right before they got married, basically.
Right. It involved pre-proposal issues.
Yes.
So,
and that little wrinkle happened to come out, but apparently didn't seem to, or at least not at this point, seem to mean anything or go anywhere.
Right. That the ultimate resolution of that story point might not yet come for a while.
Right. Well, or they'll get to it next issue before whatever happens then.
Right.
And he brings out the shade, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. So as I mentioned in the if
you're watching the video, you can see what that Dirt's rocking.
Terminator exit. And yeah, I got to pull up the audio on that. The art on this cannot be overlooked. It's Sean Isaacs or Azaxi. who is just doing bang up work on this. The battle scenes are absolutely legit. The fight choreography is, is second to none in terms of a Thing Hulk brawl. There's some actual combat, hand to hand, like mixed martial art combat moves that actually get drawn in, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And
there is the amount of subsequent body damage that you don't really see that often from the Thing, but when you do see it, it's it was kind of jarring for me for this, because like I said, like clearly he's got a rocket form, but it was like, oh, what's underneath that? Well, we kind of get to see,
right. Right. You have to be of a certain vintage to remember when Wolverine took his claws to the Thing and he had to wear that mask for a while.
Right.
I'm sure all of us remember that, or at least remember seeing that those covers in the early 90s.
Right. So, or even, Ben's fights with, the Thing previously, or someone like, say, someone else like Gladiator or somebody that, back in his UCW days or whatever.
Right. So it was I definitely I sympathize with that point of view, because it was on the more jarring side. I think this is a more this might be a more modern approach to the way the Thing is built.
Yeah, that's what it seems like, because it's like, okay, well, clearly this stuff had never really been brought up to this extent before, because it's like, okay, wow, he gets badly hurt this one issue, and then the next issue I was like, nah, he's fairly back to normal. In this one, they're looking like they're taking the moment to say that, nah, this is going to take a minute, possibly, unless they pushed some time forward a little bit, but we don't know. And also, hey, Vibranium was the savior. That's all I'm going to say. It wasn't said, but it was implied.
Well, it was definitely implied, and it was kind of nice that it was a new wrinkle.
Mm-hmm.
Or
a new wrinkle. Haha.
Oh no.
Yes.
Right, and we also get at the very end, we get a little bit of a comeuppance for the outside force that was doing what he was doing to the Immortal Hulk. So
yes, if you are following, and all you pretty much have to say is Immortal Hulk, and this person had a whole talk. And if you're paying attention to Immortal Hulk, you kind of know where that went. That's gotta go. So, and we got to see some of that splash damage at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so this was a great issue. Like I said, whether that other little wrinkle is going to actually come out into something, because it didn't really, rightfully didn't, happen while it was going on here. And actually, also, Alicia kind of saved the day. Well, pretty much saved the day on a couple of different fronts. So it was a good issue. It was also kind of sad because of the fight and things didn't exactly go like the plan. Well, it goes the way it's planned for superhero books, but it doesn't go the way the plans to where the
right honeymoon plans get kind of ruined. So
yes, as tend to happen in Cape's books.
Right. So. Yeah, as Roddy may have mentioned, this was a great book, and this actually is a potential click of the week choice for myself.
Mm-hmm. So that being the case, hey Dirt, did you have a book did you want to put out there?
Nah.
All right. Well then.
No, we'll grab one here. How about Detective?
Oh, okay.
I did read
103 or 1003?
Yeah, 103. What?
No, it's 1009.
Yeah. 9. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm a little
off. But yeah, so I was thrown a little off by the cover, because the cover on it mentions Dr. Freeze and
Mr. Freeze.
Or Mr. Freeze.
Dr. Freeze now?
Yeah, I don't know. I was looking at Dr. Pepper here for a second. But Mr. Freeze only appears in like this epilogue for a couple pages at the end, so he's not really in the story itself. But what we get is Deadshot, which is cool. Deadshot is apparently, I guess he left the Suicide Squad. I don't know. I haven't been reading that one. but he's back to being just a regular villain out on the loose. So we get some fun stuff with him making an appearance. We get more of Alfred forcing Bruce Wayne to be Bruce Wayne, and then Bruce Wayne just being kind of annoying in order to make people not want to spend time around him, it looks like. So in order to, he makes the appearance at Wayne Enterprises, and then he does a bunch of stuff that's going to make everybody just kind of annoyed at him for a long time, so they'll stop asking him to come to stuff, and so that was kind of fun, but it leads into this whole big mess at the end, and of course not giving anything away. It's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of action. You get someone like Deadshot, there's going to be a lot of crazy action stuff going on there. Ends on a cliffhanger. It was just a lot of fun to read the issue, especially with the way Alfred is picking on Bruce throughout this issue, and kind of making fun of him in a couple spots and forcing him to go out and be Bruce for a while, which, of course, leads into the hijinks later with Deadshot. So it's a good issue. And it's also a fine, if you haven't read Batman in a long time, you're not really familiar, you could pick this one up and it's a perfect point to jump on. You don't really need to know anything that's come before. You know enough of the basic stuff about Bruce and the Batcave and Alfred and Wayne Enterprises, and off you go. So
right. I was gonna, go ahead. Just finish up. I didn't want to interrupt. Because
I was just going to say, it makes it really nice every so often to have an issue like this where someone who they like, I want to read something, but it's like, well, you don't want to go back several years, 75 issues to try to catch up on what's going on in Tom King's book. There's no good jumping on point for that. In fact, I don't even think the first issue is a good jumping on point for the story he's laid out. But yeah, this is the perfect spot for someone to just jump in and get a fresh story.
Right. I'm inclined to agree with that. I actually skimmed this book, and I'm glad you reminded me of the last few pages of the book that had Mr. Freeze in it, because I was like, wait, I didn't finish this. Oh, wait, I almost did. It was like 3 pages left. And I wanted to note that this definitely felt a lot like, for those of a certain vintage, and for those of you who can watch this on DC Universe, it felt a lot like a Batman the Animated Series episode because of Alfred trying to get Bruce to be more, sometimes more tactful about hiding his Batman persona by actually living a little bit and putting himself out there so that no one's suspicious about why he never comes in during the day. I also wanted to mention that the Mr. Freeze bit at the end is a cliffhanger, and we're not 100% sure how after 3 pages it warrants a cover appearance.
Right.
So, it's kind of confusing, as I think Dirt was getting at.
Well, I wonder, it's I'm sure you'll talk about it later, maybe talk about it last week, but the Superman Supergirl covers this week, they had to, the covers had absolutely nothing to do with the story inside. They were solicited so long ago. They got the artist to draw them so long ago and put in the lineup. And now by the time they've actually gotten there, the story is not where they thought it was going to be. So right. The information was wrong. The artwork was wrong. And I'm wondering if it's one of those things where maybe they thought at this point they'd be at a different spot. Like maybe next month it's going to be a much, bigger focus on Mr. Freeze. So maybe... Right. Not quite there yet, but he's still in the book, so they just went ahead and went with it, even though it's not quite there. But
which is not the first time that's happened in the books, or specifically recently has happened in the book, where the covers doesn't necessarily have to do anything with what's going on the inside. It's just one that they're kind of taking note of and doing something about.
Sure. And also the whole Year of the Villain thing, I'm like, how does this fit in?
Right.
So, because I know Dirt is not isn't tracking what's happening in the Tom King main Batman book, but
I still buy it. I just don't like it.
Oh, okay. So
Wow.
Right. So Bane is in control of Gotham City. So wait, so how does that work with all the stuff that Batman's doing at the beginning of this issue?
Right.
Yeah. Like how like everything that he's doing, and the notes that he's leaving, which is mad Spider-Man-ish, You know, he's like, they're going to confess. Don't worry. I'm like, wait, that doesn't matter in Bane's Gotham City. You know. It doesn't matter. So.
Yeah, you just have to assume that this is happening at some different time, and probably after.
It's so weird. Yeah.
Because Tom King's book,
or right before.
Well, yeah, but Tom King's book is so. It steals the character from everywhere else. The stuff that Tom King's doing in his Batman run doesn't jive with anything that's happened in Justice League in the last year. Doesn't jive with anything going on in Detective. I don't know about Batman and the Outsiders, but with that one being delayed and everything, I have a good feeling that it's not tying in real close with what's happening there either. Plus, Batman's in Event Leviathan, which has nothing to do with what's going on in Tom King's book. So Tom King's book has just become like its own little universe there. It's whatever happening there is great, but it's not really affecting the rest of the DC universe.
So it's like in this book. Great.
Kind of. Did anybody read Event of Leviathan this week?
I was going to ask because did you read it?
I have it, but I haven't read it.
You're not missing anything, Dirk.
I'm sure.
Into it, you save it.
Story.
Because all I had to say about it is a whole heck of a lot of nothing happens. It's really a whole heck of a lot of nothing.
Although, correct me if I'm wrong, right? But this is the one that has the Vic Sage question in it.
Yes.
Yeah. Which what? Because how does that work?
And I believe Renee Montoya is running around in Lois's book.
Yeah. Because she showed up in that one. So it's like, what? Like, where is this even? And I don't know if this has to do with the whole like doomsday clock, and the timelines have been thrown off with the publishing delays and stuff like that. And who knows, whatever. But it's just something's wrong in the editorial offices at DC where people aren't talking to each other, which is fine sometimes, to let the writers tell the stories that they want to tell and not worry so much about everything being tied together. But when you get to a point where it's like a year or so into these storylines and they in no way fit with each other, because what happens in Justice League and Detective don't necessarily interact, but they don't counteract each other. But there's no way that the Batman in Tom King's book is running around with Jarro sitting on his shoulder calling him son. You know what I mean? It's like that. Like those books just do not cross over in any way, shape, or form.
Well, that's right. And and at large, we don't really know what the timeline of what's going on in Justice League is anyway, given what's all going on in there. So I don't know. And not to beat this dead horse, but like you kind of mentioned, like, is Doomsday Clock actually screwing up everything for a lot of other books, regardless of all of that?
Can it even be fixed at this point?
Right. So,
and that's a question that AT&T might be answering very soon.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, that's about true. Well, there's no quick.
So for anyone that doesn't understand the reference, AT&T's corporate conglomerate group now owns the Time Warner Brothers group, which owns DC Comics. Warner Media has owned it for 40 years now, whatever, and now they're looking at the very small profits, very slim margins coming out of actually the DC publishing branch, and I don't know. A lot of people are not betting on that being good news in the long run.
Yeah,
because why would they care? It's like we got the TV and the movies. Do we really need to print the stuff that people aren't buying?
Well, yeah. If some were saying if that stuff with Mad magazine is any indication of where things could possibly go, that's a thing.
Or it almost happened once before. Maybe you'll have Marvel doing all the DC books and the Marvel books.
So we'll get another crossover again? Yay!
Or just one giant universe.
Ooh.
The difference is between you know what? To be honest, they may as well be, because they do some of the same stuff on both sides. Like, you get one event here, and then the next event on the other side is pretty much that same event, but their version.
They could have Future Foundation accidentally unravel the universe, tap into the multiverse at the same time. Doomsday Clock ends, everything flips and squashes on each other, and when they wake up, it's the amalgam universe, and they just go from there.
So no, that brings up something actually. Speaking of some situation like that, Doctor Strange number 17. This could have been the end of this book. We know this book is ending in 20.
That's been going on for a couple of issues.
Exactly. Like that, and I said it in my notes. It's like, wait, this is the second time this book could have potentially ended on a relatively high note. Well, except for what happens at the end of this with something that happens with Steven.
Right.
But
There's a bit of a down note, and I even wrote in that we find out that Mephisto cashes in his chips, and he's kind of a jerk.
Yeah, he cut him deep. He cut Steven's cookie as deep as he probably could, arguably, without actually doing something to him. But in the course
Doctor Strange is ending at 20, and then there's an annual.
Right.
Yeah, like I said, we've known that for solicitors and whatnot. But that being said, like there's been a couple of issues, like this issue and probably
the last issue and the issue before.
Yeah, where the book if the book had ended, it'd been like, all right, yeah, that's satisfying, great, cool. This one is the same thing, because so essentially, as tends to happen, has happened a couple of times in the last few years, the universe gets remade again, like I said, and I stress that because we've had Secret Wars, we've had these other little, like the Fantastic Four going around. Well, they were going around and remaking the whole multiverse.
Franklin was creating galaxies and whatnot left and right.
Right, and I believe was it Silver Surfer or something. There's been a couple of times where the universe could be unmade by something that happens in this book, and this is another one of those. And this happens, and now Doctor Strange has been tasked through some machinations and the powers that be to remake the universe again and put everything basically back the way it was. And as I say in my notes, there's some weird in-game vibes going on with this.
Yes, yeah, there were definitely some timey-wimey stuff. For those of you who have watched both the Endgame honest trailers, and if you sat through the director's commentary, they also use this term timey-wimey,
which is a Doctor Who term, so.
Right, to defeat the cause of this whole cosmic space story, this cosmic magic storyline. And that's that Zolaw's character that we saw way back at the beginning of this story arc.
Right. So basically, everything in the last few issues essentially didn't happen. So everything that happened didn't happen and got cut off at the source. So if you picture that conversation with the Ancient One and Banner in Endgame, where they spun off the timeline, you can kind of say that happened. Except for the way they try to explain it here, it did and it didn't. So basically, everything is back the way it was, except for this one little wrinkle that pretty much unmade everything in the first place. So there could be some sort of what if somewhere down the line. I doubt it, but for right now, we have this. And as a consequence of that, because magic has always a price, but in this case, I don't think that has yet to be determined. But the price, as Agent 70 said earlier, the price that Steven comes to bargain with Mephisto comes to get cash quickly.
Right. And it wasn't the price of magic, but it was actually the price of a certain bit of help that Mephisto actually provides during the story.
He claimed he didn't do anything, but just kind of nudges. But
right. So just as a quick aside, I have never ever, shout out to Chris Jericho, watched the episode of Doctor Who. So come at me, y'all. Come at me right here at Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. It's never watched Doctor Who.
I tried to watch it. It was terrible.
So, I've been watching Doctor Who I watched Doctor Who when I was little, and Fourth Doctor always forever. And I've watched some of the new stuff. Some of the new stuff it's actually some good stuff in it, but it's not for everybody. So that means I that's why I knew that term you mentioned.
Sure.
It come out of the air.
I'm more than happy to acknowledge that is a gigantic, but I don't care about it, blind spot in my nerd fandom and knowledge. So,
although if you are interested, we do have a review copy of Doctor Strange 18 that I just uploaded to the.
Yeah, I saw that.
Ooh.
Some behind the scenes. Sorry, folks. You don't get
So if you want to see where it's going, you can read the next issue.
We are reviewers after all, so
yeah, I mean, eventually it's going to happen whenever it actually comes out. So, but yeah, we'll have to deal with that. But that's pretty much it for that issue. Like I said, the second time now, maybe those couple of there's something else that's going to come together in these last couple, and it's all going to pay out in an extra big way. At this point, I'm not seeing it. Because, like I said, you had two pretty good endings, but we'll see what's. It's almost as if it's like, okay, well, no, we're gonna go ahead and just finish it at 20. So we need you to kind of do some things to go, or one of the situations like, okay, no, we're gonna end it here. Oh wait, now we're gonna give you a couple more issues. So end it here. But wait, which I would like to believe they wouldn't do because that's just painful. Okay, no, finally, you know what? We'll just give you 20, and you can go and finish out there. And he already had this other stuff in the wind.
I kind of, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just being cynical, but I kind of think like if they're doing anything, they're setting up where it'll end at a point so they can relaunch the book with a brand new number one.
Oh yeah.
Where
I mean, quite possible.
Some great changes happened, and so then it's like 2 months later, and then you got a brand new number one.
Oh yeah,
right. But normally we would have heard about that by now because every time they've, and that's not saying they still couldn't do it, but I mean the last couple of times it's been relaunched, and then we've kind of seen about it before now.
Maybe.
And there may be something about it that takes place because of some other story that hasn't happened yet.
Right. Or they're just trying to get some issues in the can ahead of time so that they can publish it on a timely basis. So that's just as likely a reason to hold off on an announcement.
Or I'm just thinking that maybe they're tapped out for Doctor Strange right now because let's face it, you got Aaron's run, which is a great run. You had Case's run, and all the subsequent people who kind of filled in between that. Maybe those are the only couple of people that actually had something
to say.
Yeah, and this is just it for a minute.
That's possible too.
Yeah. But just because no one has a story to tell doesn't mean they're not going to publish a book.
Oh well, man, that is sadly also true. But hey, we will see if anything pans out for any of those speculations. And we will go on to we're almost
what's next.
Rapid fire, unless you want to throw out the spider books before we do rapid fire, or you want to do rapid fire and just hit them.
I mean, we can talk about the two related spider books, unless Dirt had a book that he wanted to throw out there.
Yeah, because I know.
I can do it as a rapid fire because it's my clip. So
all right. So we'll talk. So what we're going to talk about is something that we both noticed happening this week, which starts with Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 10. So this is the resolution to what has been kind of the overarching story in Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, dealing with the introduction of the rumor. And I heard a rumor that she has a villain that is named Helminth, and this issue features how Helminth is finally defeated after Spidey goes to get help in a form that's not quite what you expect.
Right. Even to that form coming into it.
Right. Because Helminth isn't exactly your classic supervillain, because he doesn't have the classic tropes of a supervillain scheme, and that's where this alternate way of combating him comes in. Also, we find out that we kind of get a resolution to the subplot of Hobie Brown and his Prowler identity in this issue, and giving that character a new direction to go in as the Spider-Man stories move forward. So that is going to be touched upon in the next Spidey book that we talk about.
Right, and I'm just going to put in here because this is going to come up again in a book I read, and you may have read it too. I'm not sure, but anyway, so the help that Spidey initially gets is Tony Stark, but it's not Iron Man that he needs. It's Tony Stark in his money.
Lawyers and accountants. An army of lawyers and accountants.
Which I'm sure one of us in the panel can appreciate. But yeah, so yeah,
we need those accountants for spreadsheets. They're good at spreadsheets.
Yes. So basically, Spidey and company wins the day by an army of lawyers. That's while that is spoiling things, you should definitely see it if you're interested in see how that plays out, because it's amusing. And like I said, the Hobie Brown stuff. And getting to the next book, Miles Morales Spider-Man number 9, we see another version of the Prowler come back into play, and that would be technically the ultimate version in Uncle Aaron, aka Miles's uncle, where Aaron Brown and JD, I guess his last name is Brown, right? Wait, no, wait, sorry. What is JD's last name? Davis. Excuse me, Aaron Davis. It's not Aaron Brown.
Right.
I'm still thinking Hobie, but it's Aaron Davis and JD Davis or Jefferson Davis, which that's it. Stupid ass name. For him. So Miles is missing, and
I mean, you would hope that's ironic, but it may not be.
Well, that was Bendis. That's all I'm gonna say about that. So yeah, JD and Rio are upset, and so is apparently Aaron, and they and you have the brothers Davis going after Miles because Aaron's underworld connections found out where he is, and apparently he is still somewhere on Earth. And they found him, and as brothers tend to do, even though who they fight, and there's a big exposition all the way through by JD during the whole thing, which ends up being touching, especially at the end of the story. They find, spoiler alert, they find Miles, because next issue we know Miles is pretty much bringing back the Ultimate Universe anyway, some kind of way, or supposedly starting to. But they find Miles and they recover him, and they come to a nice little connection, or more of a bond than they've had in, I guess, recent years between the two brothers, through Miles.
Right. So big picture, my only notes on this was that, as we move from what happened in Friendly Neighborhood with the passing of the torch of the Prowler, on to the ultimate character who is now inhabiting the mainstream 616,
or more like
Prime Universe. Right?
Yeah, re-inhabiting in the sense, but yes, definitely inhabiting in this universe.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean in this universe, because now he's not continuing his old continuity. Now we're really getting in sync with the former Ultimate continuity and the Spider-Verse movie. So so now we have a matching set.
Yep. I feel like, even though this has nothing to do with those other two books, let's go ahead and do Amazing just to kind of finish that off.
All right.
So we have Amazing Spider-Man number 27, in where Boomerang gets Spidey into a good bit of trouble. The Syndicate has found, the Syndicate and poor Feast that gets in the way all the time gets wrecked, which Aunt May, I don't think I've ever seen Aunt May go, on the side note, curse before, as she does in this book.
She's like Captain America. She's been around long enough where she's just given up.
Yeah. All the stuff, and it's just like, oh man.
She's like, enough with this language stuff.
Yeah. And I thought about that when she did that. I was like, oh, language. But anyway, so the Syndicate, the newly formed Sinister version of the Sinister Six, aka the Syndicate, aka the female Syndicate, but I don't think anybody's going to call it that, have found Fred Myers, and they have their beef with him for various reasons, with the exception of one who just likes violence. And a scuffle happens, and we come to find out that these ladies are organized quite well, and they get what they come after. Much to the dismay of Spidey.
Yeah, to the surprise and dismay.
Right.
So
who gets caught by surprise? Who gets caught by the person who's inadvertently caught by the person who's helping them? By the way, like, gets caught up in something that the person that helped them messed with. So, yeah, so the syndicate gets Boomerang for the various reasons, but apparently, as wants to happen, the leader of the syndicate, that in Beetle, has a couple of surprises up her sleeve, because they have a nice little tete-a-tete with what to do with him, and there's a little point with one of the syndicate, aka Electro, kind of gets a turn at bat for something, or seemingly, but then the Beetle kind of turns around and is like, she got another deal in place, and goes off to this other meeting, to which we found out where she goes at the beginning of the end of this book. And if you know anything about what's going on in Amazing, you know that Peter has two roommates, one of them being the aforementioned Boomerang, and the other one being Randy Robertson's son. And
that's Randy Robertson. Randy Robertson.
Sorry. Randy Robertson. Right, Robert Robertson's son. Excuse me. Sorry. And that person has a rendezvous with the person that we just mentioned, without going any further.
Exactly. Right. So just wanted to add. Yeah, I just wanted to add, just in broad strokes, this is Spencer incorporating more of his favorite villains into Amazing, and Spidey just ends up in the middle of everything. So it's an interesting story so far, because it's giving some light and some shine to these. I'm being very, 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 very generous when I say D and E list characters who are showing up in this book, and giving them a lot more shine.
That about the other versions of these characters,
right? But these are even lower on the rung, because they're just newer, so they're receiving a lot more shine in this incarnation of the Syndicate. So it's kind of fun, especially with the title of this particular arc of Who Runs the World. So I kind of got a kick out of that.
Right. But yeah, that was definitely another fun read for the week. And with that, I guess we are move as we tend to do, into some rapid fire.
Spinning it up. All right, so I'll finish up what I've got. I may have some crossover with what you've got, Roddy. Invaders number 8. This is an extremely good issue that helps clear up what we've been reading so far. It kind of fills in a lot of the blanks, and we now better understand the overall scheme and how we've gotten to this point. So it's a pretty important issue with regards to understanding how we've gotten to this point. So I definitely recommend this. This is actually another potential click of the week. I was just looking at my notes. I didn't finish typing them. We talked about Powers of 10, Silver Surfer Black number 3, I think Roddy Cat read. And my only notes is just that as we saw in issue number 2 of the series, Ego, the living planet, is on the scene. And in this issue, we find out that Ego may provide a solution to the Surfer's Null, K-N-U-L-L problem, but it may be more than what is necessary.
Right, and I like how there's two couple of things. One, there's a interesting use of the board here, and I like how Surfer's like, look, I'm not using this to get you to help me, but will you help me after I do this thing that I've already just done for you? The situation, it was quite interesting. I'm like, well, how is the person supposed to answer that? So anyway, and that's it for you, right?
Yeah, because we covered everything else.
Yeah. Well, going on that mark, Silver Surfer, the Prodigal Son number 1. So there was another book, and it's been a few months before, called Fantasy for the Prodigal Son. We knew it was it's basically like those kind of one shots that kind of connect, like they've been doing the last couple of years, where in the Fantastic Four dealt with this person from outer space named Prodigal, which, oh man, there's not even trying anymore. And he's an elemental, but he's kind of so strong. He's kind of cocky, so he's kind of like a younger Thor with elemental powers. So he thinks he can pretty much do more than he actually can. And in this one, he's like he's got away from the Fantastic Four. He's on the moon, but we don't know that because we start off with Ben and Reed trying to find him. They don't find him, and then we cut to him like kind of flashing back to some stuff in the past, which like in that part also kind of reminds me of Thor because we see him in a throne room with his brother and his dad, who's the king, you know, and they're talking and they send him off on a thing, which is why the Thor parallels are kind of feel like there's more there than not. So he's that, and then of course he goes off on his thing in the past and reminisces on that where he meets up with the Silver Surfer, which is not how I thought it was going to play out, although it did, because if you remember from the Best Defense thing that was similar to this, something happens and then Namor got shot out into space and then Silver Surfer finds him. This is kind of similar to that. And then they talk and then they go off and do whatever. So like I said, it's interesting, but it's not, you know, nothing you need to do to talk to read, unless you're interested in that character or those things. Immortal Hulk #1 director's cut. There's really not much to say about that except for what it is what it is. It's the first issue of Immortal Hulk, so you can read that again because it was a great book. And then this one doesn't necessarily have a script. It basically has like Brevoort talking about, you know, some things going into the book, but normally, well, not normally, sometimes they would tend to put scripts in the books, and they did not do this, or whether they didn't have them or arguing just didn't want to. But they basically have the regular issue, and then they have the uncolored pages, pencils of the pages, and then, you know, Brevoort talking about things kind of going into the series on what the series is going to be. So
right, just wanted to add that just to supplement what Roddy Cat just said, I did skim this because obviously I had read this book many moons ago now, and I was disappointed that there wasn't a script.
Yeah, kind of me too.
In this book, but I definitely appreciated the pencils that were the copies of the pencils that were included, because as I've mentioned before during the many times we've talked about Immortal Hulk, it's always a monthly book. You know, it's something we discuss on a regular basis. Let's put it that way. And I've always mentioned that Joe Bennett's art has come a long way from where he was when he first started with Marvel. And when you look at these really, at least you understand, you know, kind of getting back to what I was mentioning before, he had a decent amount of lead time to get this book in the can, you know, to get the pencils done on this. And it shows. The pencil work is definitely tight, because it's almost to the level that it's been you could almost sense that the darker lines are almost ink lines as opposed to just pencil lines. You know, this is very tightly penciled, so you can tell that Bennett had a lot of time put into this book before it was sent off to the inker and the colorist. So that at least is nice to see, but it really would have been something to see the script for this book.
Right. Still kind of interesting for what is in there, but yeah, it's, if you are interested in the writer side of it, it's a little less interesting because of the lack of the script. Therein, speaking of people getting help, like we said earlier, Loki #2 is starting to round up my books. So Loki goes to Tony Stark for some help. Of course, he lies a little bit about why he's there, but the heart is still the same. And all I will say about this is that, yeah, that happens. That's an amusing aside. With apparently Stark Tower is ready for Loki at this point, or has been for some time, which arguably probably mirrors something that would have been said in the MCU. Outside of that, then a foe that was dispatched in the first issue kind of comes back and wants his revenge, which you would think that would have one and done, but apparently it's not. So, but yeah, it was kind of fun, and Loki ends up apparently. Well, I'll just go ahead and I won't spoil this. He basically ends up in some would say a house full of ideas. And I'll leave it at that. Last book, Ironheart, number 9. Riri goes to Wakanda, meets Shuri, and they hit it off fabulously, except for they don't. So this is a trope that happens. And in fact, I think it's happened a couple of times with Riri, with Shuri, and the other time with Lunella Lafayette with Moon Girl. But then they come to it and understand where Riri's kind of on different sides of it. So on her way to try to find the wellspring of power, which happens to be in Wakanda, she meets up with Shuri because thanks to Tony's help, actually, now that I think about it. She goes, they meet, they kind of, again, don't hit it off all that well at first, but they come to an understanding, which, again, happens, like that. I kind of wanted them to say, oh, yeah, because, with two characters that have so much in common, and they don't hit it off at the back, they're going to come to that understanding at the end of the book, and they do here. But it's just that you got to go through that
classic superhero team up,
kind of basically, and because something happens while they're there, and they get a little bit of understanding of whatever. They're not buddies, but they seem to be getting along after that, and I think the rest of where they go from here is probably going to stick around in Wakanda because at the end of the issue, and given who's kind of behind some of the shenanigans that Riri's going through, another new warrior happens to come into the play who is related to the person that Riri's seeking. And I'll leave it at that. It was cool to see because I hadn't seen this character in a minute, but you kind of expected it knowing that the other person was in the fold. And that is it for my books. So Dirt, what you got?
Well, the only book that I have left is Gideon Falls. Which issue is this? That's a good question. But anyway, this particular issue is 16, yes. They consider this the end of season 3. What they've been doing with the books is every so often you get this kind of cliffhanger ending, which is the wrap up for that particular arc, I guess. And this once again ends with this sort of cliffhanger event where what you've been learning this whole time is that there's basically a multiverse going on. But instead of the multiverse being the way we think of, like it's Superman, but now it's Superman in a red suit. And, now it's Superman with red hair, the way that it happens a lot of times, or some like weird history, whatever. There's actually this sinister evil being that is manipulating people and using them as a gateway to jump from world to world to spread his evil, to basically corrupt each world and to, devour people and devour souls and, whatever it is that these evil things do. So the book starts out as you think it's just kind of a horror serial killer, people going crazy, whatever. But then you start to find out that it's actually a multiverse and you're seeing different versions of the same place at the same time, but in parallel universes. And this issue is the one where they finally start to link some things together. So you've kind of understood in the last few issues about how things are kind of linked in the background, but this is where you finally get sort of a concrete, I guess you could say, crossing over between the two of them. And it answers some questions when it does that. It also makes you change the way you think about some of the other stuff that has happened, so as to why it happened or how it happened. And then it does one of those things where it ends on a, like into Twin Peaks season 1 type of cliffhanger, where something big and shocking happens, and now you got to figure out like where are they going to go with this going forward. So Gideon Falls just continues to be one of my favorite books every time it comes out. Artwork's great, story's great. It's just a fantastic read. It's one of those that it's just begging to become the next like AMC horror series type of books. So again, it's going to be my click of the week. It almost always is the week it comes out, and it's just a phenomenal book that people should be reading.
Alrighty, and speaking of clicks of the week. And Dirt just said his. So,
all right.
And we also have Tim's. Well, I guess we have Tim's because he said the only book he read was Powers of X, and it was kind of meh. That's not a.
I mean, it's the best
not
book he read this week, right?
It's not the most ringing endorsement.
Yeah, exactly. But it is the one he read, so it is what it is. And actually, you talking about Gideon Falls kind of remind me of another book that came out that I might pull and check out called Omni. I think it's a Titan book. I'm slightly stalling here, and it was like it's like Doctor gets powers because of this event. It's almost like what it's almost like what a universe seems like a new universe / whatever Lion Forge was doing with their Catalyst universe and whatnot, where there's this event happen and some folks get powers, and trying to figure out how and why and what and who and all that kind of good mess. It's just with this issue, but I have to check it out later. But that being said,
I'll let you stall a little bit more, or I'll give you more time at least. I'm in between two books. It's Invaders number 8 and Fantastic Four number 13. And I'm really, really having a tough time because of how satisfying FF number 13 was, and it was just a fun read, and the art was on point. So I think I'm going to go with Fantastic Four number 13, but Invaders number 8 is a close second.
And for me, I'm going to say yes, Fantastic Four number 13 is also my pick. But I would also say that Miles Morales Spider-Man is that for me because it was some good action, a real kind of touching at the same time. The brothers at odds coming together and with a good ending to it.
Right, definitely a twist on what happens in Spider-Verse. So
for sure,
the movie. All right, okay.
And with that, I guess we shall bid adieu to PC_Dirt. You got anything? You got a show and tell or anything before you bounce out?
No, actually, I was just looking real quick because Titan does send us stuff. So I was looking to see if we had a copy of that.
I was going to pull it later, but
yeah, I'm looking to see, but the way they email things out is really weird, and sometimes it's hard to keep track of what books are coming out when.
Yeah, I don't know, because you had mentioned some stuff in the back channel about some things, and I don't know if that was one of the ones you mentioned.
Well, and also sometimes, and this is just I'll just throw this out there for people listening, just so you kind of understand some of the stuff in the background. Usually, we get PDFs from these companies with review copies to read, and a lot of times they come and they're 5 megabytes, 10 megabytes. Sometimes they're like 30 or 40. Every so often, you'll get a company sends out their PDFs, and they're like 200 megabytes or 400 megabytes for a 32-page comic. Just because instead of shrinking it down and giving you a reading copy, they're taking the full print version and sending it to you, which I guess if we had a printing press, we could print our own copies because we have the artwork ready to go. But sometimes it's a little overkill, and it makes it hard to,
Right, for our purposes, it's overkill.
Right, it makes it hard to share with each other. And sometimes if you're sitting on sitting in the backseat of a car, or you're sitting on the bus, or sitting at the store waiting for somebody to get done shopping and come out, and you pull out your phone and you're trying to pull up a PDF to read through a book, and suddenly you realize you're trying to download a 465 megabit file.
Yeah.
It gets a little awkward in there. So
although they had gotten better, because I think it was something like it was probably like last year or something, that they had started doing like low res versions of something you pull.
Yeah, and sometimes they just forget to attach the low res version. Right. And sometimes they'll do a thing where they say, hey, we're going to send you these 3 books, and you go and you get 2 books and then a copy of the second book instead of the third book.
Right.
So they sometimes that happens too. So it's just one of those things. So sometimes when he said, Titan put out this book, I'm like, well, we get review copies from Titan, but then scrolling through and trying to figure out which email because sometimes they send out an email where it's like, here's all the stuff coming out in the next 3 months. And then they'll send out a second email later. Here's all the stuff for next week. And it's not always the same stuff because schedules shift around and, things, whatever. So, yeah, it is kind of hard to track down sometimes the exact email that has the exact book? And then if you get the book, is it one that you can easily download, or do I need to like copy and paste the link and send it, to you so that you can download the book yourself instead of me trying to download the book and then send it to you, and all that kind of stuff. So
Right.
just first world problems you have to deal with as a comic.
And that's for books, folks, because we can't do that. Just in case.
So anyway, all right, but I'll dig around and see if I've got a copy in there, and if I do, I'll
okay. Yeah, if you don't, I think I know where to find it. But if you don't,
all righty. Well, that's gonna do it, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, take it easy. See you next week.
Later.
All right, our first ad of the night is for Wink, the personalized wine club. And before I continue, I honestly gave serious thought to singing the ad along to the instrumental version so that we don't get in trouble from the YouTube gods. Picking a song with an instrumental. So if you have, ladies and gentlemen, if you have an instrumental song that you want us to sing an ad to, or at least let us try to sing an ad to, make sure to reach out to us on Twitter or Instagram. So again, Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torronté, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Have you ever tried an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wine. Delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. It doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us /wink. That's cspn.us /wink. Wink Wines through CSPN. Do it today. And now we get into the news.
You gotta love those little snafus that happen while you're trying to switch scenes. Yes, we get into the news, starting with the cinematic news. First up, Star Trek theory: Picard's new ship is the TNG's USS Stargazer. Which, if that's the case, that's weird, because I figured by the end of TNG that you would think that ship would have been mothballed. So if you did not know and you're not a Trekker,
that is the correct term, ladies and gentlemen.
That is the correct term, yes. Or Trekkie, I don't care, but
Trekker, I was informed, is the correct.
Oh, I know. But, I mean, Trekkie is accepted for some folks, and not everybody's that anal about it. But that being said, the USS Stargazer was Picard's first command, and there was a TNG episode that it got brought up in, and it was already like kind of old at that point. So I can't imagine It kind of makes sense because they're not going to give Picard the Enterprise back again. So he's got it, and he's going to end up having to have some ship. So that is as good a theory as any, with the exception of the fact that, according to this article, they said, hey, yeah, it's old enough to where it could be in a museum, and there is precedent for, Federation ships being turned into museums and coming out mothballed by being stolen. So it's an interesting theory, but we'll see how that turns out. Next up.
Alrighty, the first trailer for Star Wars Resistance's second and final season is here, so there's good news for fans if you are hoping to get a look at the return of Kaz and friends post The Force Awakens and Last Jedi adventures soon, are coming out soon. And the bad news is that their last adventures, I've tried to watch this show. I was unsuccessful in getting past like the 4th or 5th episode.
Was it storied, our style, or
a little bit of both?
didn't pick up for you fast enough.
Yeah, a little bit of both. Are you up to date on it? Like
I have not watched any of it. Not for lack of wanting to. It's just that I hadn't really gotten around to it.
I understand.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to checking this out. Like the art style kind of grew on me. I'm digging it, and it's a little bit different from what we've got from like Clone Wars and Rebels, especially
it's
from
more
what
digital, right? It's one of the more digital cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which looks good, but yeah, it was like and I'm trying to remember. This is not Filoni and crew behind this. I don't remember. I don't think so. But regardless, whatever. Because I know we're getting Clone Wars again at some point. So all will be right in the world, I guess. Next up, Gwyneth Paltrow didn't know Samuel L. Jackson was in the MCU.
Yeah, her memory's not that great with these MCU appearances, but there might be a reason why, other than her forgetfulness.
well, I mean, I'm not going to be one to defend anything because one, they were in 3 movies together. However, that doesn't always mean you're in the same scenes as folks. Like they've only shared a scene in Endgame.
Right.
So there is that, and the other couple of movies, which again, she was in Iron Man movies, and so was he in the first 2. I don't think he was in 3. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he wasn't in 3, but they did not share any scenes. So relatively understandable why she wouldn't understand it. But it also goes to like, clearly she doesn't watch the movie, which I can also understand that.
Which is still lame, by the way. But
well, it is. But I mean, I don't like listening to my own voice, so I can understand not wanting to watch it. And I'm sure there are people out there that agree with me on that. Anyways, but the point is, like, yeah, I kind of get it to a certain point, but the prevailing wisdom is like, boy, those checks are nice where you don't have to really care about who's in movies with you. So that's,
forgot. I was about to say, but the thing is, what I was going to also mention is that oftentimes these things are filmed not in sequence and on different, at different times. So that that kind of explains her not remembering about being in a Spidey movie either. So what are you going to?
Again, still didn't share, as far as we know, didn't share a scene with Samuel L. And but. I don't know. It still seems weird to me. And apparently, there's an article out there from probably Mashable, somebody that was like, "Hey, she's not the only one with that kind of a memory."
Yeah.
So, and which is true, but still, I'm like, really. At some point, you would have thought it was like, "Oh yeah, I was in these other movies that you were in when they were, or maybe that didn't come up. Who knows? I don't know. It's just weird." Anyway. Those checks must be nice. I wish I had at least one. Next up.
All right. So Avengers Endgame was released on home video this week. Digital had come out about 2 weeks ago, but home video release was this week. I went out and got mine and watched it a couple times already since it came out on Tuesday. The director's commentary is gold. It is awesome. I am not a director's commentary person. I may well become one, but just as a quick aside, the director's commentary had both writers, Marcus and McFeely, and both Russo brothers. So it's almost like a Comic Book Chronicles discussion of of Endgame with four different points of view on it. So that was a lot of fun. And this next story is about Endgame, and apparently,
it's not.
But yeah, it is. Endgame had Black Panther return first, and here's why.
Oh, you talking about? Oh, I thought you meant the next story, not this.
No, this story. The story I'm talking about right now.
Yeah.
So directors Joe and Anthony Russo did AMA on Reddit and Ask Me Anything, and they revealed why Black Panther was the first one to appear through the sparkly thingies that Doctor Strange and the other magicians use to transport people around.
The Valve portals.
Right. So
someone will get that reference.
Right. So they basically said that the logical first person to go through a portal from Wakanda would be the king himself, bringing his army once again to the defense of Cap in the world. And also they wanted to reassure the people who were bandwagon jumping on the MCU post Black Panther so they wouldn't lose any. So That's
Wait,
another reason I
is that
think.
what they said? Is that you editorializing?
No, that's me editorializing. Because there were people like that in my theater when Infinity War happened, and they were like, oh, and a lot of us were just like, really?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Look, I'm not a bandwagon whatsoever, but I was even at that point.
Oh
I'm
no, like I'm leaving.
But that was kind of like the difference. Like, okay, why he had why
I'm leaving out right. I was about to say I'm leaving out the hushed tones that they spoke in behind me, and I was just like, come on, people. It's a comic movie.
And there was some of that. Yeah, there was something I was like, oh shit. And especially when Peter got snapped.
Yeah, we definitely had that in my theater, so that's what I'm referring to.
Sure,
it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it is kind of amusing. I'm like, look, I know what's good. I know this is not going to be it, but at the same time, I'm like, it was resounding. You know, let's not take away from it, but yeah, you kind of know. Either way, so that was that. Plus, it was, you know, I guess if this is me editorializing on it, I am a fan of director's commentary on a lot of them because sometimes you find some nuggets and sometimes it's just fun depending on who it is they put together. You know, like I think I haven't actually listened to the John Wick ones, but I would imagine those ought to be quite amusing.
That reminds me, I got to see if those are worth listening to.
Yeah. So now exactly, and I said the same thing because I think because usually when I check them out, I usually kind of check out a couple of minutes and I was like, I'll come back to it later or something, or drop them out and then listen to them in audio form. Anyway, as far as this goes, so we can move on. You know, let's face it, when T'Challa and company came back on, which when they last left, they were in Wakanda, and those were the technically last ones to get snapped, I guess, or that we saw get snapped. To see them come back in first kind of makes sense to me. You know, but that's
where most of the heroes were.
That's what I'm saying.
The vast majority. You know, there was a minority of them. You know, of the grouping of heroes at the end of Infinity War in space. So more of them were on the field in Wakanda.
You're about to say Pelennor Fields.
Yes, well, that's what I always can. What's funny is that the Battle of Avengers Compound became the new Pelennor Fields. Like it was Pelennor Fields Part 2. You know, trust me, I'm fresh off rewatching Endgame a number of times, so a lot of that stuff is fresh in my mind. And shout out to anyone who saw, I think I tweeted it earlier today. Yes, I tweeted it earlier today. For those of you who don't follow me on Twitter, I'm at @agent_70 on Twitter, and I can't not see the cameo of Howard the Duck every time I see the heroes assembling at the Avengers compound. I can't not see it anymore. I'm just like, oh, there he is. Oh, there he is again.
Yeah, I think we talked about that last week, where you can see, folks.
I never saw him the first 2 times that I watched the movie. Now that I have it at home, I'm like, there it is. There it is.
Yeah, now that you can freeze the frame, yeah.
Exactly. And now I don't even have to, because now I know where he is, so I can just like see it out of the corner of my eye. Look, there he is. It's funny.
That's always fun.
It's funny how it works like that,
But yeah, director's commentary. You should check them out more. There's some good stuff and usually with those anyway, depending on the movie and who they put together. Next story: Ragnarok fan edit gives Thor and Hulk lightsabers for the ultimate fight and ultimate brand synergy. That was me editorializing that last part. Because let's face it, it's all connected at this point. I'm sure it would only take one snap away from them to be like, okay, what if Wild Space was the link between 616 and a galaxy far, far away? Think about it. There's actually Wild Space in both continuities. So anyway, that's just me. Somebody's gonna write that. So yeah. So apparently the battle in the arena between Thor and Planet Hulk, I guess you can say. I don't know. Sakaar Hulk, I don't know what you can say. But the battle in Thor Ragnarok between Thor and Thor. Well, I mean, hey, we don't know what he was up to. I'm sorry, I was thinking. I was thinking of the porn parody version. I'm sorry, my fault. My apology. I don't know. Or in Hulk, They were given lightsabers and let us move on really quick. And you can see it out there. I'm sure it's on yeah, it's probably out there on YouTube. Yeah, it is. As agents after.
Because you barely noticed it, and I was just like, "What?"
No, I was like, as soon as I said it, I was like, "Wait, oh wait, oops."
Oh man! All right, so moving on.
Next up,
the Celestials take center stage in the.
If we ever have like a recap show, a clip show or something, or they're in like somebody put that in there, please. Because
oh my goodness. So yeah, I was about to say our improved audio on the show is going to come back and bite us. The Celestials in our next story take center stage in the Eternals concept art, and it's unlike anything seen before in the MCU. So I'm trying to pull this up, and let's see what
we got ad blockers. So
with the ad blocking. Oh,
which is weird because I took ad blockers off that site for this reason, and yet it's still showing up. So go figure.
Crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a little behind the scenes, folks. If you're watching the video, you'll see you have seen what we're talking about. If you're not, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm totally trying to pull this up. All right, so what is this? Looking for it. I don't even see a picture. Where's the poster?
It's fine because if you go in the notes, at least you get a good gist of it. So yeah.
All right, it's on Instagram, so it was a link. So now I'm moving to the Instagram. I just want to comment on it. I want to see what it looks like.
Oh yeah, fair, but yeah, it's not.
And
Come also,
on, people.
Well, also, you know,
okay. Hold on.
I don't like
pimping. Grimish.
I don't like pimping alternate web browsers, but Edge doesn't seem to have that problem.
I see the image now. It is on Insta, and it's kind of cool. So this was a poster that the artist did for San Diego Comic-Con 2019, and yeah, the Eternals look a little different. They definitely look a little Pacific Rimish.
Oh God, fucking auto-playing video! Stop it, sites.
Language. I gotta get a clip of that.
Yeah,
I gotta get a clip of that from Age of Ultron. That's funny.
Always trying to get your stupid click videos in, clicks in.
Yep. So
this is why I try to stay away from sites like this.
Yeah. So I see it now, and yeah, very Pacific Rimish.
Yeah, totally. So unfortunately, you don't get to see that if you're watching the video. But hey,
go into our sheet and follow the link.
Yep, totally. Ad blocker off if you're so inclined. Next up, Marvel Studios basically uses Tom Holland spoilers as marketing, and other news, water's wet.
Right, and the sky is blue.
Exactly. So good, and that's the exact same thing. What I said when I saw this ad, because I was like, okay, sure, without even reading through the thing. So basically, you know, he's talking with Kevin Feige, and he basically says that, you know, Tom Holland keeps more than you think he does. It's just that you hear about, you know, 1 or 2 things, and that's that. Just to paraphrase this article. But he was like, well, even for the stuff that he does, it's like, yeah, they roll with it and they use it as marketing. And the same, I think they also mentioned Mark Ruffalo in tow with this. So it's a thing, but it's not a thing. So, and again, no surprise.
Sure.
Next up.
All right, next up, the Russo brothers have a particular X-Men movie they would like to direct. So again, in response to the Ask Me Anything on Reddit, on the Marvel Studios subreddit, people asked what superheroes movie that is not currently in the MCU would you guys most want to direct in the future? And the answer was Snickety Snicked.
Wolverine, bub.
That's right.
Which, you know, I not knowing that much whole a lot about them, not surprised for some reason.
Right. They came of age comic wise right when the Wolverine character was really hitting its stride, because I was on the younger side. I was on the younger side when that stuff was happening, but they were right of the age when that, you know, the Claremont Miller limited series was coming out, and the Wolverine character was really starting to gain traction. So.
Oh wait, so they're older than? Because I was thinking they're not. I know they're not that young. To where I'm sure the '90s was impressed upon them, but they're like us, probably a little bit older.
Yeah, no, they're influenced. Yeah, remember they've already they acknowledged in the whatchamacallit, they've acknowledged in interviews and in the director's commentary that scene of the Hulk holding up the Avengers compound so that it doesn't crush everybody is an homage. Right. Yeah. And they've already come out and said that. And you have to be of a certain vintage to even get that reference. Mm-hmm. So my guess is that they were of collecting age at that point.
Yeah, I would like to think so. Yeah, I mean, granted, there's nothing saying that they couldn't, even if they were younger and they couldn't have gone back and read that stuff. But
but they really appreciate it.
Yeah, the likelihood is probably less.
Exactly. So, like I said, with regards to Wolverine, I definitely see them coming up when the apex of the character's development, because I would argue that the character has had a lot of downs since then.
I mean, yeah, but still has a air of cachet when you up to even then, to where him coming back and them doing a movie and everybody, not everybody, that's hyperbolic, but a lot of people would be like, yes, glowing, because the '90s were the heyday of
the X-Men in general, right?
The X-Men in general, but definitely Wolverine, and Spidey was already hitting on his cylinders, but Wolverine had pretty much had overtaken Spidey, and even the Thing by that point.
Oh, definitely.
The Thing was kind of more of an '80s, early '80s thing.
Right. When we're talking about who is going to guest star in any one given book,
definitely. It was definitely Wolverine. It was everything. In fact, I was on Marvel Unlimited and I saw a book that I had not seen before. It was basically, speaking of the Thing, it was like Logan and Ben Grimm, and it was Ben in his human form. So apparently this was them fighting together at some point. I don't know when it is. I'll have to check the book out and see it. Or maybe I even put a link in the show notes. If you have Marvel Unlimited, you can check it out.
When Ben Grimm was in the Air Force, maybe.
Probably, yeah. But I'm not sure because I didn't actually read through it. I just happened to see it there, and I'm like, that's. Of course, them two would be together, but I didn't know that this was a thing that happened at some point.
Yep.
But then again, of course it did, because everything did.
Sure. You got it.
So next up.
What's next?
Disney unimpressed with New Mutants. This is another thing that sparked a conversation that Agent 70 and I had earlier. Which never mind.
Wait, hold on.
So yeah, Disney unimpressed with New Mutants, doubtful of box office potential. I personally would say, now I don't know about this iteration of it, but I mean, in general, there's clearly good potential. There could be good potential for a New Mutants thing, but it's also, let's face it, still has the stench of the Fox umbrella, even though it is now all incorporated. And
right,
the X-Men movies have a certain, and the New Mutants, which is long languishing, by the way, because it was supposed to come out this month in August, but it's been pushed back again to next year sometime, I believe. There wasn't really nothing. There was no good hopes for this one. And yeah, all the pushing back and the reshoots that had not happened, I know we had talked about this like earlier this year, that hadn't happened yet, didn't bode well for this movie. So yeah, and Dark Phoenix didn't help, but when it came out, but at the same time, the things going on with New Mutants was a side point. So yeah, so apparently Disney is looking at the books and be like, what is this thing right here, New Mutants, and
right,
probably going through all the other Fox stuff, and like, well, we know this Deadpool's thing's a thing, so that's gonna fill up a money bin. What about these other folks? And yeah, New Mutants seems to be into that. Yeah, April 3rd, 2020 looks like is the next date of. Yeah, I don't know. I hope, because like the cast, from some of the casting. As a matter of fact, on a slight side note, there was a picture. I don't know if you saw it. Agent 70.
What's that?
But there was a picture of Bill Sienkiewicz and Anna Taylor-Joy, who plays Yana in the New Mutants, and they were hugging. It was an adorable picture. It was cool. I don't know if you saw it. Yeah, I had to look it up, but it was out there on Twitter. So but it was cool. Anyway, that's that. Well, hopefully we will see this movie, or we might not. We don't know now. Next up.
All right, next up, the Lion King remake is the biggest animated earner ever, but apparently Disney is claiming it's not.
So this is a big, though this has been an discussion, for lack of a better word, in the last couple of days, because there are some people who are saying live action, and it has been billed as a live action, but it's not. There is not a live. Well, there aren't very many live action things in said movie because all of the characters are CG. And I think they may have used a practical set of a couple of lions for like 1 or 2 shots. So pretty much everything else is CG. Therefore, it can't be live action if there's nothing real. There's no the protagonist.
There's nothing living and breathing.
Exactly. That is doing any acting, and it's all CG and voice acting. So even though it is in a live action setting, like I said, some are claiming that it's live action, I guess, for that reason. But some others are saying, well, it's clearly not because it's CG, so therefore it's animated, which technically is true.
Right.
So, and that's been a small debate, I guess. There have been bigger dust-ups on the internet, and this has kind of been just in a low corner somewhere. So I don't know, but regardless, the remake, which and also is ironic because it's a remake of an actual animated film, so there is that. But apparently, it made $1.3 billion at the international box office, and it beat Frozen $1.2 billion to become the top grossing animated film. Frozen actually being an animated film.
Right, a traditional,
yes, right. A traditional animated film. And yeah, like I said, there's a little discussion on the internet about what that actually means either way. Regardless, it made money, so that's the bottom line for Disney. They don't care. Next
up, let's see. Marvel has plans for more street-level superhero shows post-Netflix. So Jeff Loeb has teased more street-level heroes will be getting Marvel television shows in the future. In a interview with Deadline, Jeff Loeb dove into the current and future state of the comic company's superheroes on the small screen. So there aren't too many specifics that have been announced, but he teased that there's more street-level heroes to be brought in, most likely on Hulu. But also with the possibility of some on Disney Plus, but more likely Hulu.
I mean, and realistically, it'll be both because Hulu. I mean, there's going to be that package with Disney Plus and Hulu built in. So technically, they're at the end of that day, if you go that route. But yeah, so they're talking about and a couple of the ones that we already knew about, like Ghost Rider and Blade. Well, Blade joining the MCU, but Ghost Rider getting his own show on Hulu is one of them. And going into the next story, speaking of Hulu's Ghost Rider and Hellstrom shows are now branded Adventure into Fear, with more to come. So apparently Marvel Television is going to go where DC Television has, or DC Universe's television universe has been failing. So yeah, Ghost Rider and Hellstrom is going to be branded Adventure in the Film, and they're going to put more horror-focused brands under that name. One of which being Man-Thing, which is basically Marvel's version of Swamp Thing.
Because he makes your heart sing. Oh no.
So yeah, it says here, we always knew we were going to do something with Ghost Rider. We're just waiting for the right place to put it. And they're talking to Jeff Loeb from Deadline, probably that same article. Adventure into Fear was a classic 1970s Marvel Comics horror title, which focused primarily on stories featuring Man-Thing and Morbius. But Loeb says Hulu's Adventure into Film isn't horror, it's terror. And he says there's a difference, apparently. And he goes into that said difference, which we won't. So, yeah. And even though they were supposed to be doing a Morbius movie, this article also mentions whether that's going to happen, we don't know. And it sounds like Man-Thing potentially is going to be another one in that book. Again, probably taking the page from what DC didn't do, even though that one
tried to do, right?
Well, tried to do and let go of.
Yep.
Sadly. Anyway,
Yep.
Next up. Speaking of,
so according to Jeff Loeb, the Netflix cancellations of the Marvel TV shows, including Daredevil and Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, the cancellations blindsided the folks at Marvel TV. And it all began with the cancellation of Iron Fist.
Part of me, I can see it, but another part of me is like, because it is Netflix's production, therefore, yeah, I'm like, they have, the right of whether they keep it on and take it off, even though they do have a deal. But at the same time, I'm like, I can't imagine it was that much of a blindside, especially with what, I don't know. Part of me is a little cynical about it.
Oh no, definitely. I think that there's some stuff there that is unsaid. Right.
But at the same time, if it's like, yeah, sure, we'll take it as a word until we find out the other things. Anyway, next up. Speaking of, hey, we talked about this last week when there was an auction off of the Marvel TV's Netflix stuff, props and whatnot, and Netflix.
Sadly, I don't think I won anything, and I don't think Roddy Cat won anything.
I didn't even try. And I imagine that stuff was probably going for a pretty penny anyway.
Yeah, the really good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the stuff that you would want, and probably, like I said, the only other thing you would probably want, you can probably buy. And I'm talking about, like, say, Luke Cage's hoodie, but way cheaper. Anyway, Netflix Daredevil suit bought by former showrunner at auction. So the suit won by Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock was bought by Stephen DeKnight. So, and according to it says here, for those who don't know, there were auction off props from the Marvel Netflix shows today, said DeKnight, wrote on Twitter, and I'm happy to report that this bad boy, the suit, is coming home to live at the offices of DeKnight Productions, where it belongs. So I believe he was the original. Wait, was he the original showrunner or not? I can't remember. Or he was the one that ended that where they ended the show. Regardless, he was a former showrunner either way, because that show doesn't exist anymore.
Sure.
So congrats to him and whoever else got stuff off of that auction. I can imagine what I would even want though.
The Billy Club.
If it was workable, yeah, maybe.
What's funny is that just before we move on to the next story, I wanted to mention that I did peruse a lot of the stuff that was up for auction, and some of it was actually relatively reasonably priced, but some of it went for extreme amounts.
Sure. But it's an auction, so yeah.
Right. I definitely would have been interested in some of the stunt effect pieces. Like there were various forms of the Billy Club and Electra Psy that were
that.
Right, that were and Sticks and some of Sticks' weapons as well that were engineered for stunt work and visual effects.
Right. Actually, now you say that, maybe a hand uniform.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of that stuff was up there for auction to be had. So, it's interesting to go through that. So, just that's what, just to kind of broaden our perspective on what was actually available.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just one Billy Club. There's actually a number of different versions, and
right, because they have different things, like you said.
Right, exactly. And for what you're willing to spend and what you're willing to maybe reenact.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and I feel like, but it wouldn't be a working set of Billy Clubs, but I feel like you could probably find some similar things like that out there. But at the same time, it wouldn't be those, and wouldn't be used for. You wouldn't have been used for on set, which would go for a pretty penny if somebody were to say eBay it again.
Right.
Madam
on the resale, let's say on the resale market, that's going to turn a quick profit, I think.
Right. Madam Gao's cane. That's what I would want.
Oh, okay.
I'm kind of slightly joking about that, but no, I wasn't about the hand uniform. That would probably been one of them. And I don't know if Madam Gao's cane would have been up for grabs. And plus, as a cane, I got like 5 canes already. Next up,
makes me want to look it up, to be honest.
Yeah, I know,
Because
right?
I didn't scroll through every item. I saw that there was a variety of things that were up there for auction. So I kind of like that. I really like that idea that it was a lot of different variations. So you didn't have to kill yourself trying to get one Billy Club.
Right.
So,
Misty Knight's gun? No, actually, no.
I don't know if that was available, but like I said, that makes me want to. That makes me want to explore some of the other things. Like they had swords, obviously. So, maybe not Misty's weapons, but Colleen's.
Yeah.
So,
No, I was completely joking about that because there's enough guns real and not around nowadays.
Right. All righty, next up.
Or her nunchucks, because I believe Colleen has some nunchucks also. Definitely her katanas and yeah, totally. Oh man, yes.
Yeah, like I said, it's worth looking up, even if it's just to see if there's something that didn't make it, didn't get bid on.
Right. Anyway, moving right on.
Next up, in real world news, Army Hammer of all people decided to take Marvel chairman Ike Perlmutter to task for contributing to the Trump campaign for president. So yeah, not good.
Well, this has been a thing that's been. I mean, it's been known for a while if you're paying attention to top level.
Anything. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So and I saw that tweet when he did it. So basically, Army Hammer, which is still a weird ass name, basically said when some other stuff was going on with the whole Equinox club thing being, or gym, I guess is what it is. Thing, Army Hammer just so happened to chime in saying, "Oh, hey, while everybody seems to be on the Equinox thing, it might be a good time to mention that one of Trump's largest financial contributor is the chairman of Marvel Entertainment, Ike Perlmutter." So again, and it is a sad fact too that his relationship to a thing that you love has been a thing, because you don't want to contribute to that, but at the same time, you don't want to not contribute to the other people who are giving their blood, sweat, and tears to put out.
Exactly. And just as a quick aside, the Perlmutters made a lot of money from Toy Biz, and obviously made a ton of money once the Disney acquisition went through. So they have they've donated to a lot of things, like there's a cancer center named after them here in New York City through NYU. So it's all over the place, and it's unfortunate that these that these folks are connected, to a certain direction that's not cool.
Right. And of course, as tends to happen when someone like that happens to bring out something like that, the comments under his Twitter were as stupid as you expect, because they're basically saying, well, I guess he won't be working at Marvel, or he's just trying to do this so because he didn't get this role, or blah blah blah. I'm like, folks, not everybody does things just because so they can get something out of it. Now, I don't know whether he is or isn't. It kind of doesn't matter.
Besides, he's attacking the wrong guy. He's attacking the right guy, but not,
exactly.
He's not exactly going after the MCU people. So that's put it that way.
Well, there's that too. But I don't think I'm fairly certain I don't know the man, and I'm not speaking for him. I seriously doubt well, I don't know. I don't think he did that just for some perceived role he may or may not have gotten or will ever get.
Right.
That's stupid thinking from people like that. Anyway.
Right. And on some rather confusing news in the next story, President Bartlett.
What's next?
Wait, what's confusing about it?
Go on. Just start it. And
a new G.I. Joe film is in development that will feature Chuckles. I mean, that alone for me, I agree. Yeah, that's weird. That would
you know what? I skipped the story.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, we'll get to that one. Oh,
yeah.
So there's, in addition to a Snake Eyes movie, which is apparently still ongoing, they are looking into doing other G.I. Joe related films, which, can we get a good G.I. Joe ensemble film first, please?
Maybe they're trying to do the MCU style and do solo movies first.
Kinda, yeah.
Silly, because that's not really what G.I. Joe is about.
Well, see, hold on. So we should think back a second, because if you remember, which this doesn't seem to be playing out all that well, Hasbro has been trying to get their own shared universe. Because remember, they were doing G.I. Joe mask and a bunch of other properties, and they were going to do their shared universe thing. I don't know if that's
Space Knight. Ugh.
And Rom State Space Knight, among with other Transformers also in that. And I don't know, and I don't believe we haven't heard anything from that in quite a while. So I don't know if that's still a part of this, but I'm just saying this is possibly somewhat in service in a smaller scale. So yeah, so it says here the film is being written by Josh Applebaum and Andre Nemec, alias Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Ghost Protocol's all right. And the film is described as an ensemble piece, which makes sense because Chuckles is not one. Again, so, okay, I'm not going to put this. Hold on. You're saying I'm going to put this up. So.
What is it?
Boop. So those before. Oops, wait. I send this to live. Thank you. I'm holding in my hand a copy of G.I. Joe the movie. Why? Because this is the version of Chuckle I was thinking about. Not the miniseries that he does have with IDW that apparently is supposed to. All right, I remember skimming through that. I was like, okay, it's basically, I feel like that is an 80s action film-esque thing because with that character. So if you didn't know, Chuckles is an undercover agent. There is a IDW book that he centered around where he infiltrated Cobra and things happen. So a movie about him infiltrating anything as an undercover cop, like, okay, we've seen a whole bunch of 80s movies like that. But there's in G.I. Joe the movie, there's a part where Chuckles and the rest of the Roughnecks are training, and he's in this one doesn't actually say anything. I don't think he said anything in the whole movie, actually. Now that I think about it, and he does his part to some effect, and I'm like, why would you make a movie off of that? Why? He's the quote unquote strong silent type in that thing.
Right. I was going to say that.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say the Marvel G.I. Joe series, well after I stopped reading it, with the introduction of Chuckles, they also had an undercover story where he went undercover and infiltrated Cobra as a secret double agent. So this is is territory that has been trodden on.
Or is that?
No. I'm talking about the original Marvel.
Sure. Okay.
G.I. Joe series before, before it reincarnated over at IDW.
Right, which Larry Hama is. I should maybe not, I don't know. Like I know he's over there doing. He basically did the continuation of the Marvel stuff over at IDW of his book over at IDW. Which hey, that's what you want to do. If you're going to do something like that, yeah, let the man who rolled them out proper finish his work if you got something else to say.
Right.
But anyway, back to the movie situation. So yeah, apparently that's the thing, and this thing is suggesting like you could have suggested that the number of characters that they could put in, of course, not up to and including the rest of the Roughnecks, probably not including Lieutenant Falcon. That gold-plated goof off. To quote one beachhead. But anyway, we have talked way too much about this particular story, and let's get into the next related story.
Yeah, more G.I. Joe.
Yes.
Right. So there's a report out there that crazy rich Asian star Henry Golding could be G.I. Joe's new Snake Eyes, and I have mixed feelings about this.
Okay.
As a lot of G.I. Joe fans of the 80s will attest, I was a huge Snake Eyes fan. And if you crossed over into comics fandom, not everyone did. Mm-hmm. A lot of people were toys and cartoon. But I also crossed over into comics fandom. And I hunted down copies of The Origin of Snake Eyes, the 2-part story. Mm-hmm. Snake Eyes. Yes. At a time when I was mad young. And, we're talking about elementary school.
I was collecting that book. I think between me and my brother, we're both collecting that book, or one of us. I know I was, but I think he was also collecting that book.
And I tracked those 2 issues down after they had come out, and they were impossible to find. And I lucked out and found them. And when I read it, guess what? Spoiler alert for people that don't know, And if you don't know, you will soon know. So, spoiler alert in 3, 2, 1. Guess what, guys? Was a blonde white guy.
Yeah. Which I
He
think
was
that
a strong silent type.
Well, yeah, very silent.
But, he didn't say all too much, and his origin explained away a lot of what happened, and also how he came into contact with one Tommy. I forget what his last name is, but it's supposed to translate into Storm Shadow.
Right. And so there, as in recent years, there has been in the IDW stuff, that many guys is dead, but then they turn around and do another one who was, I believe, also a former member of Cobra.
But then they make a female?
And then they ended up, I don't think they killed that one. And then, yeah, the latest one is a female.
Okay.
And I believe she is Japanese. Definitely, I can't remember actually. I haven't really kept up with that one. So yes, there is
this is kind of like the whole Iron Fist thing, where. But what's funny is that I think a lot of people expected him as the OG ninja character that we all kind of fell in love with as a fan. We all kind of expected him to be Asian, and then when the origin came out that he was a white dude that trained in Japan as a member of Under the Hard and the Soft Master. Look, I remember all this stuff. I'm
like, ooh, why? And then you remember,
but at the same time, I was like, oh, whatever, because at the time you're just like, okay,
Yeah, you're young, you don't know any better. It's like, yeah, he's still a badass character, even though
exactly.
But now we know better. And so now,
I still objected when they had Ray Park, who was just a little too short to be Snake Eyes as Snake Eyes.
Well, yeah, and obviously we know why he got that part because of his martial art status. So yeah, but at the same time, that's kind of also like, well, Wolverine, whatever.
Yeah, we went too short on Snake Eyes, too tall for Wolverine. We can't.
Right. So
we can't take an average. We can't take a couple inches here and there.
And it doesn't. And at some point, some of that really doesn't matter all that much. In this case, I don't think it. I don't know how tall this short or this guy is, or whether he's even had any.
He's on the taller. Right. He's on the taller side. We don't know what kind of martial arts training he's had.
Probably not. But stuntman, so it doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
Right, but ultimately, they'll just have to tweak the origin, and the OG fans will know that it's not, that it was supposed to be one way, but most people won't know.
I mean, they don't really have to do that much tweaking because everything's the same. Yeah, he's just not a white guy anymore. But he'll probably, now mind you, they will probably tweak it to where it's like, yeah, he was American born or something like that, more than likely.
Right, and also that he's going to talk like a lot.
You know what? Well,
he's going to talk a lot before the accident. This one of those things where he talks a lot before the accident.
Even if they do the accident, yeah, you might be right. You might be right on that part. Yeah, so that part was probably because they can't, with all the unmasking and the superhero identities getting unmasked on the MCU and DCU and all that kind of good mess on the big screen. Like, yeah, they can't help themselves from. Although I feel like there was somebody that actually stayed. I can't remember what it was though. Like, because you see the stuff, and it's like, yeah, they get unmask every few scenes, every other scene, so they could get some screen time. But I feel like there's been something. But I feel like there's been something of someone who basically kind of stayed in character and stayed, didn't have a problem with. Was it Deadpool? Oh, Ryan Reynolds. Yeah, maybe that was
Deadpool. Deadpool's really the one. Once they put the mask on, they really, they did take it off at some point, right. But they did the majority of the movie with him with it on.
And to be fair, there was probably another reason for that, But yeah, I guess that is one. So anyway, we can move on. Did
what's next?
Group bonsai, really? Oh, geez. Anyway, Supergirl and Batwoman are the CW's finest in new promo. So yeah, Supergirl won't be just teaming up with Batwoman in the Arrowverse upcoming Crisis on Infinite Earths event. 2 series will both be featured back to back in the CW Sunday night lineup this fall. and there's a new promo for it. I guess it blends both of those two shows, or obviously Batwoman's not even out yet, but what little footage they have of her in the can already is probably going to be used with whatever they use for Supergirl. And there you go. So cool. I haven't watched it, so I have no idea.
Yep. Next up, there is a new look at Rose Wilson's Ravager revealed in not the Korean boy band BTS photos, but in behind the scenes photos. I hate that acronym, man.
It has been kind of co-opted, huh?
I just hate it. BTS. Every time I see a BTS photo line, I'm like, no.
All right, now the BTS fandom is strong. Don't go down that road.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's akin to the Bayhive. So I'm not trying to provoke the BTS.
Yeah, don't poke the bear. Don't.
No.
So here's this looks like it's coming off of Reddit, and it appears, I guess, yeah. So this is Chelsea T. Zhang as Rose Wilson, who is Ravager, aka Deathstroke's daughter, who originally is not Asian. I'm not going to quibble about this because it doesn't really matter. I don't know. I can't remember who's there playing Deathstroke. Is it Manganiello still?
Not in the Titan show.
Well, actually, this is Titan show because of somebody totally different. That's for not the DCU. But regardless, so it doesn't really matter because they're supposed to be bringing in Deathstroke and Ken in this season of Titans, which I still haven't caught up on. So hey, you know what? She's all right. Yeah, I guess I don't know who that is, but
who you don't know who Rose Wilson is?
No, I know who Rose Wilson is.
Okay.
I don't know who
the actress. Wait, we have a sound effect for this, folks. This is what I get for looking ahead at the next story.
Who?
Thank you.
Anyway, I'm sure she's done something that people know about, and we're just out of the loop.
Yeah, we don't mean disrespect.
Exactly.
But like Korath, we ask who.
So, yeah, I mean, hey, walk Reddit. I'll catch up on Titans at some point. Next up,
an update to previously reported stories. Crisis on Infinite Earths on the CW will not feature DC Universe's Titans. So it was rumored that Titans from the DC U app would cross over into the CW's Crisis on Infinite Earths arc, but apparently the sources have come back and said negative Ghost Rider, the pattern is full. I gotta get that sound.
Sure, get your one in for the week. I appreciate it. I
gotta get that. I'm always coming up with the new sounds I gotta come up with. But yeah, that's a no-go right there.
So yeah, and this was again start off as a rumor. Nothing had nothing to base on. But apparently, some people, just like unfortunately CBR here, who's usually pretty good about their going to print on some stuff, didn't put it as a report, but took it as fact, and they had to recant because of what they thought wasn't true. Never go for rumor sites. Like well, if you're a rumor site, do what you want, but never report rumors as true, folks. That's it. It goes nowhere fast. Like unless you got something, even if you got something to base it on, until it gets confirmed. Don't do it. Anyway, and I'm sure some people wanted. I don't know if I'm fairly certain I wasn't one of the ones that thought that, hey, this one, it was a good idea, and two, was ever going to happen. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I thought they were way too different for each other. So
basically, like if you're going to do that, then why not? I don't know. I'm sure there's other things to do outside that. So anyway. Speaking of, and I'm happy I'm catching up with this. Young Justice Outsiders finally reveals Helga Jace's evil mentor. I'm not there yet. I'm not that far.
Oh, okay. I was about to say I just caught up on this. This came out this Tuesday, and
right.
I caught up yesterday.
Right. Which and of course the permalink of said this article has just spoiled it. Well, not just spoiled it, but has spoiled it.
Lame.
But I am also to the point to where I saw this character come up. So, or at least I've seen this character show up. So I'm kind of not surprised.
I gotcha.
So, and I won't spoil it for anyone who's not caught up for it. I don't know, and I don't know the connection between them two. But I knew. Let's put it this way: I said on Twitter earlier, like I knew she was working. You knew she was working on for somebody. It was clear, and that I will just go ahead and say this: if you're not caught up, she plays somebody. She's playing somebody at the part where I am badly, and I feel sorry for that dude playing on his emotions like that. But you saw it kind of coming, and I think you know who I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, I watched it. I know.
Yeah. But I'm talking about who she's basically been playing for the good length.
Oh yeah, as a stooge.
Yes. And it's sad. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
So anyway, once that part, and I don't know if they've done that where you don't have to say, but I don't know if they've gotten to that point yet. But yeah, I imagine since they're just bringing this up, I don't think so, because we're starting to get to the end of the season. And I guess they're going 26. I'm not sure.
Hold on, I can tell you.
Because I know the last season was 20, and this is episode 21, so they must be going 26 for this. And I know they're also working on season 4, so. Because we already talked about that.
Right.
Young Justice is a great show. You should watch it. It's on the Universe. I don't know if it's anywhere else or by DVDs.
Yeah, it's on the DC Universe app. That's kind of problematic for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Until
until it hits one of the streaming services, right?
Exactly. Because they're more likely they'll probably put that on that HBO Max thing. Probably. Anyway, let us.
26.
Yeah.
26 because there's only next episode is 23, so there's only 4.
Because that was 21.
No, 22 is this week's.
Oh, 22 just came out already? Oh, yeah. Wait, are they doing 2 at a time?
No, 21 came out last week.
Oh, right, because I pulled that last one. Never mind. Okay.
Yeah. So this week's episode is 22, so there's 4 more episodes left.
Right. So, okay, sweet. And yeah, like I said, if they're doing a reveal like that, then clearly they're coming to the end game of the season.
Yeah, there's a lot revealed in this episode. I won't spoil it, but there's a lot.
Yeah, I don't doubt it because there's like I said, where I'm at. I'm basically at when you see all of the teams get filled in to a point, or at least we find out some motivations. Which didn't they get enough of that last season? But anyway, next up, Wonder Woman Bloodlines. Yeah, Wonder Woman Bloodlines gets its first trailer. So this is the new DC animated universe offering. Let's see, is it going to be on DC Universe? I think it probably will. But anyway, so this is Wonder Woman Bloodlines. It is going to be available on physical sources and all flavors and sizes for $40 and $30, or $25 and $40 respectively, whatever, depending on what combination you're gonna get. And I don't think it says whether it's going to hit DC Universe anytime soon.
It will at some point.
Some point.
Much like the Batman Hush.
Right, because Hush just got there, yeah.
So
yeah, you can check that out on
it's probably a short time.
Right. As a matter of fact, I will say, let's see, October 5th is going to be the digital coming out of this product, and the 22nd, obviously 2 weeks later, is going to be the physical release.
There you
can check out the trailer there for it.
There you go. So next up,
there we go. All right.
Next up, Game of Thrones creators' huge Netflix deal has absolutely done some good and killed off their next HBO show called Confederate.
I don't think it was that deal that killed it off. I'm gonna just go ahead and put that out there, and I'm not the only one who's thinking that. So, yeah,
sure, it's a
nice they got a bigger, better deal, but I'm pretty sure that Confederate show was.
It's a nice coinky dink.
Sure.
So it's so according to the Hollywood Reporter, Weiss and Benioff's deal with the streaming giant is worth a whopping $200 million. And ensures that the pair is going to bring multiple films and TV shows to Netflix.
Yeah, I would argue if they're willing to do something like that last thing that they were talking about, I don't know if they deserve a deal on that. But that's just me. I'm not going to. Well, I am going to begrudge people getting their money depending on how they do it. But it is what it is. We'll see what comes out of it.
Right, and Game of Thrones fans will will take issue with them as well. So
sure, oh for sure. And then I know they're still trying to do that prequel or other spinoff things of Game of Thrones. Milk it, as they say. Anyway, not speaking of milk, but last in cinematic news.
Lasagna. That's what you're thinking.
Oh man, I could go for some lasagna right now, but and I'm not gonna do a Garfield voice. But Garfield sold to Viacom and Nickelodeon. So, which frees apparently, according to this article, and Jim Davis, who says, "I'm delighted that Garfield is going to be placed in the capable hands of the folks at Nick." Davis. They know how to entertain and will be great stewards for the franchise. Maybe that's true. I don't know. I'm also excited to continue to do the thing that gets me out of bed every morning, the comic strip. So yeah, nice. Still doing, and I would imagine. So apparently, I found out a while ago that Paws Inc. was doing some numbers, which is the company, the license of Garfield, and I guess US Acres also, which was Davis's company. So if he sold Paws Inc. to Viacom and they're in Nickelodeon, then yeah, he clearly still has the license to his character, obviously because it's his.
Right.
But and that would also kind of explain why there's a Garfield kart racer coming out. I didn't put it in. I didn't put it in the news, but I know I saw that article recently. I'm like,
yeah, they're better able to monetize character. I gotcha.
Right, and especially since it's Nickelodeon, and because they do have their fair share of licensed goods,
right?
Outside, yeah,
and they have distribution in terms of channels. So
yeah, sure. There was that other article that said that and I didn't put that in an article that Star Trek is the big thing. Would be the big thing for Viacom and CBS's. Was it Viacom and CBS's merger? I think I can't remember, but regardless, the Star Trek will be the thing that's going to be the big thing for Viacom in that deal. Which I'm like, okay, maybe not. We'll see. Anyway, we are going to move along to the comic book news of the week fastly. Jim Lee says that DC's digital comic sales plateauing and disheartening, quote unquote. So yeah, apparently DC's co-publisher CCO Jim Lee has opened up about the state of DC Comics' offering, including the publisher's DC Universe streaming service, which boasts you already know what that is. And he quote says, "On the digital side, I think it's been pretty flat in recent years. No surprise that to be editorializing, which is a little disheartening." Lee told IC version 2, whatever, about plateauing digital comic book sales. A lot is moving to subscription, and that is having a downward pressure on transactional sales. But I think it's discouraging in general because everyone talks about digital being the future. If there's anything that should continue to grow year in, year out, it should be that channel.
It's interesting because I think one aspect is, as much as we kind of talk about the demise of the physical comic book, I think one factor, it's not the sole factor, it's one of many factors that is contributing, I think, to not wanting to necessarily go 100% digital is still the collectability factor. And I think that comic book speculation has insidiously crept its way back into some popular, it's crept its way back into popular thinking.
Right.
Honestly, to a certain extent, like I said, it's just one factor.
Right. Some would argue it's never really left. It's just like it's been right there under the surface for the longest time, because this is not the first time a similar story like this has happened, and a proposed decline of comics and therein is, has been nigh or imminent.
Right.
For years upon years since both of us have been collecting. So yeah, but I mean, granted, digital, different wrinkle, different time, but still, some beats are still the same.
Right. It's just interesting to see how the market is adjusting to. The original thought was always that the movies would drive people into buying comics. That necessarily hasn't been the case,
and has never been the actual case.
But what's funny is that the movies have driven collectors into speculation,
right?
And speculation on what might become the next hot book. So it's made a subtle change to the collecting landscape,
which is why it has some people collecting crazy runs of a very not good Chuck Austin X-Men book. Of, not to go back on that horse again.
That's funny. Shout out to Classic Materia.
Indeed. Next up,
Dan DiDio is concerned about supposed nostalgia driving the comic book market. I sort of understand where he's coming from, because what he was concerned about is that some new books are being outsold by the facsimile editions of older books, of classic issues that DC and Marvel are actually both issuing
right
nowadays.
Yeah, and I kind of took this a slightly different way, even though I didn't fully read this article, because there are, let's say, some folks who don't like change and think that the comics should be that the same as what they've always been, and the characters should not change that much or grow in any length. And granted, he's not saying that. It's me saying that.
Right, so, exactly. That's definitely not. I did not read Didio's take that way, but
again, I read into that.
Yeah.
So, but
I definitely think that's an aspect of it.
Right.
There's definitely an aspect of it. It's unfortunate people are stupid. And but at the same time, I sympathize because Snake Eyes was blonde.
Yeah, well, I would think you'd be happy that it would be, a person
that's funny, right? Of Asian descent, right? You would think so. But I've read it and I grew up with it, so I'm like, okay, fine.
Agreed. I agree. I agree and understand that. Like, my horse in the races, is similar, but not. I'm like, okay, whatever. It didn't.
Right. And what's funny is that because I followed up on some of the story afterwards, a lot of the Storm Shadow Snake Eyes stuff, not to loop back all the way back into this, was about him being a foreigner.
Right.
And a lot of the story elements were based on that. So that's
still could be, because like I said, they could make him American born, and
right. Exactly. They don't need right, and they also don't need to follow the exact story that was in the comics. So
right.
All right.
Which they weren't going to do anyway. So
right. Although it's actually not that hard to do, because it actually is it's unfortunately kind of
yeah.
I was about to say it's a trope, and it's kind of like American Ninja style.
Yeah.
Shout out to that series of movies,
or any other of the time frame. Yeah, definitely.
Right.
So yeah. Anyway, moving right along. The Shade materializes in Hawkman number 15, which is actually kind of weird because the episode of Young Justice that I just finished watching had the Shade in it. So that's kind of funny. So yeah, Carter Hall may need help from the Shade, which is a villain, classically, against an old enemy in this preview of August 14th, Hawkman number 1. Wait, I thought Hawkman. Wait, what? Oh, that must be a typo. It's Hawkman 15. That's a typo. Damn it, Newsarama. Anyway, so yeah, this is follow up after the Day of the Villain stuff. So, which I'm sure that's a problem. I didn't know. Actually, I did know, but it's still weird that Hawkman actually has a current book. But hey, if you care about preview pages, there it is. Moving right along.
I was about to say, there's fans of Hawkman out there, whichever.
Hey, I'm more of a Hawk girl fan, but that's just. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was about to say, like, it kind of depends on whether your real introduction to the character was from the Justice League cartoon.
Totally.
And if that's what it was,
I knew about, and I mean,
like your real, introduction.
Right. Yes. Right.
Not just as like a side character in like the background of a Justice League comic.
Well, I want to say so when I was little, like Justice League and Batman was like the books that were being collected around me, and Hawkman was also one of those books, and I think actually all of like Superman, Aquaman, all of those, because there was more DC focused with people around me at that time. So I was like, I read some of that stuff, but
I gotcha. I mean, I don't remember much of Hawkman, Hawk World stuff like from like the early 90s, late 80s.
Right.
That, you know, my understanding of the character and the character's history was very, very slim.
Right. And it changes just like Carol's did.
Right. And but at least you saw Ms. Marvel, Carol Danvers kind of re-enter something resembling a center stage when they had her rejoin the Avengers in Heroes Reborn.
They still kept changing her because she changed not only because that was also when they had her like alcoholic and
exactly
and Warbird and all the kind of stuff.
Exactly. So, but anyway, enough about Hawkman and Carter Hall and Qatar Hole and man, I even know all that stuff. So, but anyway, next up in books for kids
now, so
right in books for kids. This is like a novel, like a kid's novel, graphic novel.
I believe it's a graphic novel.
Okay, so it's a kid's graphic novel, I think.
A trilogy, one of the trilogy, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is.
Right. So this is something that published this week from Amulet Books. It is a crossover between The Flash and Green Arrow. So everyone go out and see if you can't track this down. It's
the Arrowverse is a thing, and therefore, I mean, not saying that this is not obviously that's not the primary time that they have teamed up together, because it's not. But
right,
I'm just saying, it just so happens that their team up being prevalent in the Arrowverse was one of many,
right,
and still so. But wait, it doesn't say whether it is prose or not.
That's what I was trying to look up. I was like, I can't tell.
Yeah. So, and that was the thing. So this could be me assuming that it's a graphic novel and not prose. I don't know, and I would have to actually look it up.
I would disagree. I think it might be prose.
It might be. I mean,
because only an author is listed. I don't see
is that
art credits.
True. So yeah, that's good deducting, Sherlock. But it is what it is. If you care,
indubitably.
Nice. So yeah, if you care to check it out, you can go do that. I'm not going to go into the premise of it because and I'm fairly certain it doesn't have anything to do with their actual first crossover. But
next up, I was about to say, next up, your the news story is something we were discussing with PCN_Dirt before he left for the day.
Indeed, yeah, this is what he was basically alluding to the whole thing. Next week's Superman 14.
This week,
this week's Superman 14, or was to be, and Supergirl 33 recalled, pushing back Legion of Superheroes return. So, which is Bendis's book, Legion of Superheroes. So yeah, apparently DC is asking retailers to destroy all copies of August 14th Superman number 14 and Supergirl number 33. You may or may not have seen a copy of one of those books at the beginning of the show. That is destroyed, of course.
Exactly, it's destroyed. It's destroyed. I mean. Or was it?
Officially? Due to advanced production schedules, the covers of both issues ultimately did not reflect the content of the stories, which I think Dirt may have mentioned that. If not then before we started. But DC told the retailers, replacement copies with the new covers will be provided at no cost to retailers. So I am fairly certain there are some retailers that have held copies of both of those books, and those books are probably going to sell for a fairly decent penny.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm overthinking it, maybe not, but just usually how the way the market works.
Sure, supply and demand. The supply is supposed to be very small, but
you can't get these because they were supposed to be destroyed, but somehow a few hundred of them are on eBay.
Of course.
So Yeah. Anyway, so that's the thing. Again, I don't know if no one on the panel is actually reading either one of those books.
Yeah, well, not steadily, exactly. We're reading them as part of our review purposes, but
I don't think anybody's doing that. Who's reading Supergirl?
I don't know about Supergirl, but Superman, I definitely skim here and there.
And as the one who used to actually read Supergirl for a brief minute, hey, and when it was a good book, I'm not reading it.
Okay.
Anyway, next up,
Greg Capullo has re-signed as an exclusive artist with DC and is plotting the biggest adventure yet with Scott Snyder. So Greg Capullo, formerly of X-Force, long ago, and Spawn, now
go.
yes, and now is most well known for his long run on Batman with Scott Snyder. Has re-upped with DC and more Scott Snyder stuff to follow with as a collaboration.
And also, Capullo always some strange reason puts me in mind of Tom Morello. So that's weird to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, and no news on whether this is an exclusive.
Okay.
Contract.
Yeah, I see that now.
Yeah. So I would doubt it because I feel like DC or somebody would have been like, hey, or them would have been like, hey, we got this Joker lock, stock, and barrel. What? Wait, when was the last time he done anything for Marvel or any? I mean, we know he's. It's
been a long time,
right? So even if it's not exclusive, I'm pretty sure he's, probably there for a minute. So yeah.
He's been in DC since 2011 when the Snyder run started.
Right. So yeah, there you go. Next up, deceased writer Tom Taylor on why he chose to kill spoiler so early. And I'm just going to go ahead before even saying the actual reason is because, hey, to give the book an actual chance to breathe and be a book. So basically, if you did not know, and spoiler alerts for a 4-issue old book, but in Deceased, there's a what I'll just go ahead and say a zombie apocalypse, pretty much. I'm not going to go back to it because we talked about it last week. But Batman dies in the first issue. Because if he had
right away, but yeah, it's
we totally didn't give it away, but
but it's not. No, but he doesn't die right away. I don't think in the first issue. I think it's
because
prolonged into the second issue. But yeah,
he's prolonged into the second issue. Yes, but still,
right. He's taken out early, and this story's about why.
Exactly, and I suspect, given what I just said, it's probably not that far. Even if it's not said, I feel like it's probably similar. Anyway, but it is, according to Taylor, it hinges on moments and who I want to see survive. As soon as people start hearing about this, everyone just assumed that Batman would come and have some sort of plan, which is basically what I was saying, and save the day. Sorry, we killed him at the end of issue 1. So and it also goes on to say is we want to destroy expectations with this book and have some real shocks and real stakes. And boy, have they. Taylor said, we didn't want to fall into any of those comfort zones that people may have seen in DC Comics before. Even the Trinity is safe. And boy, is that true also, given this last issue. In this book, anyone can be taken off the table. Now, Tom Taylor is no stranger to this, being the writer, purveyor of the Injustice series. And yeah, people got dealt with.
Yep.
In those books, which if you haven't checked those out, especially like the first couple of arcs, and you only know about it from the video game, you should definitely go check out that first couple of arcs, because the video game, if I'm not mistaken, came before the book. I always get that mixed up. Doesn't really matter at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's that. Next.
So, from the pages of Dark Knight's Metal, the Dark Multiverse is going to continue to affect DC's comic book world. They're actually going to cross into some of the most memorable events in DC's comic book history. So, what is this? I know that there's supposed to be some Shazam related stuff in this, right?
Not. Well, they're basically doing Blackest Night and Infinite Crisis, so they're basically going back to those universes.
Gotcha.
And whatever happened in the dark multiverse is going to far reach into those multiverses. CCs.
Gotcha.
So that's the gist of it. And these both are one shots. There's Tales from the Dark Multiverse Blackest Night, and Tales from the Dark Multiverse Infinite Crisis #1. Both one shots. One written by Tim Seeley, other written by James Tynion IV, and artists Cal Hotz and Aaron Lopresti.
Okay.
So you can find both of those books in November for $6. And it looks like they are reprinting the original first issues of both of those events around the same time for $1. Or you could just go look them up on Comixology or DC Universe if you have said thing, because I think they have. I'm fairly certain they have those there. May or may not be in full, but who knows? Anyway, 7-day trial, folks. Next up, sad news. Legendary comics artist Ernie Colon passes away at 88. This happened on the 9th, I believe, last Friday. Yeah. Yes, that is true. Famously, or at least famously from me anyway, he is the co-creator of Damage Control with Dwayne McDuffie. Also rest in peace. But he's also co-created Amethyst for DC Comics, and a bunch of other stuff he's actually done. He also, let me see. He did a stint on the Marvel's version of Battlestar Galactica back in 1979. Co-created Eric, Son of Thunder, Amethyst, mentioned. Also did a lot of work on Flash, Wonder Woman, and Green Lantern during the 80s. Going into Damage Control with Dwayne McDuffie, Magnus the Robot Fighter, and also, which I did not know this part, but he was doing basically graphic renditions of the 9/11 Commission report for folks, and the Warren Commission reports on the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
Oh, okay.
So we could have used them for the Mueller report, I suppose.
Yeah,
it
it seems like he's lived a long and fruitful life. So rest in power.
Exactly. Oh yeah, he also did work on Vampirella, Creepy and Eerie. Those anthology books, if you know those, and a bunch of other books. Oh yeah, the Starline books. I forgot, like Richie Rich and Casper and probably Planetary. I think he did a lot of stuff on, the Harvey books rather, not Star book. I think he did some stuff for Star Comics, which was Marvel's Kids in Print.
Right. Shout out to Peter Porker.
Yes. Oh yeah, Peter Porker was a part of that line.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but anyway, rest in power, Mr. Clone.
All right, next up, The Deep and Dark Blue explores a trans character through familiar but inverted trope. This is a fantasy graphic novel created by writer-artist Nikki Smith. I'm trying to see who this is published through. It's going to be a January 2020 release through Little Brown Books for young readers. And the reversal of the trope is a boy is going to disguise himself as a girl, and hijinks will ensue. Cool.
So yes, check that out if you're also inclined. Pretty Deadly, The Rat #1 gets silent film style trailer. These trailers for comic books is a weird thing that's been happening in the last few years.
Well, yes, it's one of those things that you yourself has always decried about what the big two don't do, which is market their books. This is just another way to market their books.
True, you're right, but it's just still weird to do it in this fashion. Which I ain't mad at it. I'm just pointing it out.
I was gonna say it's an easy way to spread via social media, though, and I think maybe that's
or TV, because apparently somebody said they saw a DC book or something that was on was it King's book? So I can't remember who it was, but it was a commercial for somebody's comic with them on it on TV. So apparently some of that
Yeah, I think that's an untapped. Whatchamacallit? That's an
Resource.
untapped resource there. Advertising through social media for comics on a weekly basis.
Yeah, totally. So cool. But yeah, so basically that also goes into saying, hey, guess what? Pretty Deadly is back with Kelly Sue DeClonic and Emma Rios. It's a 5-issue run that will come out September 4th of this year. So cool, good to see that book back for those who were fans.
Next up, feel the magic, hear the roar. Thundercats Classics figures are back and better than ever.
Nice.
So, Super 7 is redoing Thundercats Classics. Much the same way they did Masters of the Universe Classics. These are bigger and better, and I happen to see these figures. It's kind of weird that they chose the Wimpy Mumra as one of their first 4 figures to do, but so yeah, I was about to say the first 4 figures are pretty cool though, because there's a Mumra, a Lion-O, a Panthro, and a Monk. No, it's not Monkey, and it's
Slythe.
No, it's not Slythe. It's the hyena guy.
You know, I always forget him.
Yeah, exactly. I don't remember his name.
Oh wait, here we go. No, it's not it either. So it says Tigra, Chitara, Mumra,
Jackalman.
Jackalman. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hyena guy. Oh, shout out to my bad memory.
Yeah. Well, hell, mine's too. Huh. That's an interesting picture underneath that. I was gonna ask, did you see the redo of Thundercats?
The cartoon?
Yeah.
From like a few years back?
Yeah.
I saw some of it.
Did you? How'd you like it?
It was okay. I mean, obviously, you know, the modernized look was a little off-putting, but I thought it was okay.
Tiger had a freaking gun, yo.
That I don't remember.
I totally remember, because he was like
I don't wait.
Like it was.
I just remember the stories with the Robert Burbles. I'm like, oh my god, Robert Burbles are still here.
Oh yeah, I guess. Oh yeah, I think that might be where I left off at. I need to go and finish that. But yeah, so basically, it was. If you haven't seen it, I want to say it's the Spectacular Spider-Man of Thundercats, but that might not be accurate. And actually, it's totally not accurate, because this was a fairly big redo. So basically, Lion-O and Tiger were brothers, or stepbrothers. Chitara was like a cleric and a guard, so you know, and everything wasn't exactly how you knew it to be if you were a fan of if you remember the 80s version.
Yeah, they changed a lot of the relationships. So
yeah, it was still it was interesting, but it was like, it's that first, especially if you of a fan of the 80s version, it's like, wow, this is different. Like, I don't know how I feel about this.
I gotcha.
Again, Tiger had a gun. What's going on? He still had the whip, but he had a gun.
Hey.
Anyway, let us move past this. So yeah, those figures are out there.
Yeah, you got next.
Yeah, I know. Just getting back to where we were. Let's see. And that wasn't it. Stupid auto plans. I'm going to start abandoning stupid sites. Marvel Legends designers break down. So I think I put this one here for you. Marvel's Legends designers break down process of releasing new versions of characters. So this was, this is basically, you know, Hasbro just brought out a whole bunch of new figures, and the comicbook.com, which I shouldn't even give them that, was at an event, and they interviewed the brand manager, and you know, what that auto-playing video was starting. I hate auto-playing videos. Stop that. I know why you do it. Y'all not slick.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure there's probably an extension that'll stop that, but I'm too lazy to go that route. Anyway, so if you are so inclined and want to know about the process of them doing new figures, you can go check that out. Next.
All right. Marvel Comics celebrates its 80th birthday with a month of events and releases. So in just a few weeks, Marvel is going to kick off its official birthday festivities. Yeah, exactly. So its birthday is officially on August 31st, and that's the day that Marvel Comics #1 came out, and there's a lot of stuff coming out in the next month.
Sadly, we will have recorded a couple of days prior to that. Otherwise, I'll be like, let's get some balloons and some streamers. Let's do it up. Of course, we would.
We can always do an early birthday celebration.
And no, because if we start doing that, we'd have to do that for all of them, and I'm not doing that. Because there'd be somebody, and then nobody would do that. Well, nobody has done this, but it'd be like, well, y'all doing Marvel, what not DC, or what not Valiant, or what not Arctic Press, or whatever the other races one is.
Exactly.
Anyway, so yeah, happy birthday, Marvel. Anniversary, I guess. Birthday, same thing, whatever. Cosmic Ghost Rider just retconned a major crossover event. And looking at the permalink for this, interesting. So it says here that the last issue of Cosmic Ghost Rider destroys the Marvel Universe, which probably is not canon. So, the Verges, well, it basically says that. So original sin maybe didn't happen,
or not the way we remembered it.
Right. So yeah, so Frank Castle interfered with a major Marvel crossover, that being the one I just mentioned, potentially changing the fate of a major character as a result. So yeah, what does that mean for the overall continuity? Nothing. Well, maybe. Well, I don't know, because I think this was a side thing, even though because Cosmic Ghost Rider is or was in like Prime Universe, so I don't know. Whatever. If something comes out of that, I'll be shocked. I don't think it is. Next up.
Alrighty, next up is a story about Eric Larson on his long-awaited return to Spider-Man in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man Going Big, #1, which is going to come out September 4th. So it's a big one-shot as part of the 80th anniversary, 80th birthday celebration.
And if you're watching the video, you can see the cover, I believe, of said book, which slightly reminds, and I think this is, yeah, Eric Larson did the cover of this, which is weirdly reminded me of Electric Company Spider-Man.
I was going to say this is probably one of many covers.
Yeah, and he's also shooting a beam out of it. No, I'm just kidding. Let me stop. He's not. That's just perspective. And yeah. Anywho, let's see. Marvel's Scream gets her own ongoing, but who are they now? I'm going to say, who cares now? That's my 2 cents on it. So yeah, apparently, Scream, which is a Venom, another offshoot of a Venom symbiote, is going to get her own ongoing title. Launching this November with writer Clay McLeod Chapman and Chris Mooneyham, spinning off of the screening off of Absolute Carnage and Scream tie-in books. No word on whether it's going to be the current iteration of She-Venom, who has just changed their name to Scream, I guess. Am I wrong for not caring to care about any of these symbiotes? Like, okay, the first one was cool and it served its purpose, but really? Did it really need to spin out in all of this?
I mean, what are you gonna do?
Not read them, one. But
no, I mean it's a whole. I was about to say it's a whole event that I don't think any of us are interested in looking at. I think I read Absolute Carnage #1 as part of our, for academic review purposes, but sure. I'm not eagerly anticipating the next issue. So.
Right. It's an event of, some would argue, aping an event they've already done. Maybe not to the letter, but still. Well, yeah, exactly. That is absolutely true. So, anyway, Thompson and Bacalo crowned as new Deadpool creative team.
Oh. So, and the reason why I'm like, is that I love Bacalo's crazy artwork, and that it's going to be on a Deadpool book is just kind of like a waste of resources in my opinion, but a lot of Deadpool fans will disagree.
Well, yeah, well, never mind. That's anyway. So yeah, so this is Kelly Thompson and Chris Bacalo. Yes, and as a matter of fact, she saw when on her Twitter when after this came out and you know, well, not confirmed because it was already confirmed, but yeah, when she tweeted about it. So I guess good for her, good for them, but I don't care. Let's move on.
Marvel's Avengers. Actually, wait, no, this is your story.
Marvel's Avengers heading on epic space adventure, quote unquote, this November.
Like the Fast and the Furious. I'm kidding.
I mean, eventually they will be going to space. Sure. So it looks like we're going to see a slight change in team, and it looks like they're going to go into space to go refine the new universe. Actually, that's not true. That's not true at all. Well, we don't know because apparently, so from the Free Comic Day event, we are lacking one less star brand, and apparently in Avengers, the signal is going to go out, not unlike a Green Lantern ring, and find a new host, and the Avengers need to go to space to find out who or what is going to get that, because as stated and rebranded in Hickman's Avengers run, Star Brand is the Earth's defense force. So why is it activating a way out in space? Dun dun dun.
Exactly.
And if you're watching the video, you can see the cover of, I don't know what issues this is going to be, but you can see various hands of alien origin with the Star Brand logo. Now, they could be in a club and they all just got tatted up at the same time, or maybe the Star Brand got split up and it's, various agents will have it. They have to go on a quest to beat down folks and get it back. I don't know. But yeah, and also like judging on this cover, we see one Black Widow is going to be quote unquote alive, which she's been alive, but back on the team, sharing the stage with most of the others. I think we're lacking one Iron Man and one Panther, according to this. But it looks like everybody else is going to be there. So she'll be fighting alongside the person who killed her again.
Yeah.
Oh, Avengers number 27, which is, and I guess whenever November solicits come out, we'll see a little bit. Well, they already have it in this article, but regardless.
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, that's going to be a thing that's coming up. And it's probably one of those ones that's been alluded to forever and a day through various books in the past, couple of months. But yeah, we'll see. Next up.
Alrighty. Web of Black Widow is going to be a series that starts on September 4th. It's going to be kind of a year one type story. Actually, no, I don't think it's a year one type story, but this is a description it's a description about a year one type background.
So she's basically, it sounds like it's a flashback, or she's going to be flashing back to her early days during the course of this. And of course, Bucky's going to be there. So
yeah, kind of reestablishing the romance that Brubaker established in the Winter Soldier book.
Mm-hmm.
And in the in one version of the Black Widow series.
Right. But not in the MCU, strangely enough.
Right.
Which I'm not saying that has to be the case, but yeah. That's what some folks were expecting.
We don't know yet. There is still a Black Widow movie coming out.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I feel like they would have at least
teased it.
At some point, because I don't think they've really had that much screen time together. I mean, even in the Captain America movies. So
they were fighting each other in the Captain America movies. Yeah.
And I think that was it, though. But it was like just for that one, and ever since then, no.
Yeah, they were fighting each other all the way through Civil War.
Yeah, and that was it.
Yep.
And they weren't even fighting each other, because remember, Winter Soldier went out to Spidey.
No, in Civil War, when the Winter Soldier breaks out.
Wait, are you not talking about Winter Soldier?
No. I'm talking about in Civil War, both all the three of them, Panther, Widow, and Sharon Carter go after.
Oh, you talking about in the beginning?
Yeah, they go after the Winter Soldier, and all three of them get knocked.
Right. Yeah, you're talking about then. I was talking about later, but yeah. Although, wait, Natasha wasn't in that.
Yeah,
I mean,
she tried to do the head scissors, and
wait, that's right. Yeah. Because Tony was there, and he wasn't. Yeah. So, but when they went to the chase, she wasn't. Yeah, she wasn't in the beginning. That's right. You're right. So anyway,
I was about to say my faulty memory has repaired itself.
No, you're right. But no, we were thinking about two parts of the movie, two different parts of the movie.
Exactly.
Anywho's next up, speaking of Cap, Captain America 12 pushed back 6 weeks. 6th week, excuse me. So
2 weeks late.
Right. So this has been pushed, and then it's been pushed again. It was originally listed it was June 19th, but now it's going to be August 21st. Wait. Rescheduled 4 times. Oh yeah, June 19th release has been rescheduled 4 times and comes after issue 7 through 11. We're also pushed back due to the originally planned release dates. 13 and 14 remain on schedule for August 21st and September 18th consecutively. And looks like the July 24th is when 12 is going to come out.
Right. And you wonder if it's just the case of maybe an exercised issue, because this is the last issue in the current Captain of Nothing arc.
Right.
So it might be the case that they are churning out extra pages for this book.
Sure, maybe. We don't know. No other reason's been given, so we'll go with that until we find out something else. Next,
Darth Vader and Son artist Jeffrey Brown on bringing his childhood glee to Star Wars sequel movies. So, what is this? A kid's book?
Yeah.
Across Vader and Son and its 3 follow-ups: Vader's Little Princess, Goodnight Darth Vader, and Darth Vader and Friends. Okay.
Yeah, I think I've seen at least one of these books. They're cute. So yeah, they're basically kid versions, not unlike Tiny Titans, but not really versions. And so I guess now he's doing, in addition to those books that previously mentioned that he's done, he's going to be doing some that span the newer sequels. So there's going to be a Ray and Pals. Is that it? Yeah, that's the one. But there must be another one. There's probably another one, but I think this is the start of it. And you can see the cover of it if you're watching the video, including, which is weird, Hodl's there and a Porg and whatever. So yeah, if you got kids, or even if you're a big kid, because I know there are some adult Star Wars fans that will definitely get that book.
Sure.
Anyway, last but not least. The Force is strong with the summertime activities. So this has nothing to do with comic books at all, but this is basically saying, hey, get out, go outside a little bit, enjoy some stuff. So this is an article on StarWars.com that basically highlights some Jedi / Force type activities that could be done outside, under the day ball, that you and your kids could do for some fun, which includes tossing around a balloon and acting like you got the Force, getting one of those big sponge things that pull noodles and making a lightsaber out of it, and do some Force training and a couple other things. So yeah, you can check that out in the show notes.
Okay.
And with that, our last ad read, please, sir.
Yes, we will finish up tonight with our read when it's late and we're in a hurry. Keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us, then click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, and comics. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
And with that, we come to another great episode of this here Comic Book Chronicles show. Thank you each and every last one of you for coming out and hanging with us, whether it be by video or audio, or whichever way that should be. Appreciate you. For myself, Radicat at Radicat and Radicat. Blah, 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 blah. Why am I sounding like Forager? Jeez.
No, he's in a hurry to watch the latest episodes of
Forager.
Outsiders.
Yeah. Radicat on Twitter, News Nerds Need on Twitter, CB Caps on Instagram, News Nerds Needs Reddit. 8_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PC_dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com, and all of his umbrella sites therein. And the Osiris that is ish. Tim DOGG98 on Twitter. The Click Nation, that's DKLIQNATION on Twitter. CB Cron on Twitter. TheClickNation.com. And of course, Comic Book Resources was over there writing his face off. And not writing Face Off because we don't need another sequel to that stupid movie. If you want a John Woo movie, If you want a John Woo movie, The Killer, A Better Tomorrow, those are classics, damn it.
Okay.
Indeed. I would almost go so far as to say Mission Impossible 2, but I know people hate that movie, and it's not really. It's not that great of a John Woo movie either.
Yeah, it's not that representative of his greater body of work.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, anyway, with that all out of the way, you can find this here podcast at the Cold Slither Podcast Network, CSPN.us.
Do it today.
Also on Google Play, Apple iTunes. For as long as iTunes is going to be around.
Apple
Spotify. Yes, I thought I said that, but I did maybe not. Spotify and of course the Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. And you can find us here every Thursday, mostly every Thursday night, 9-ish, 9:30 p.m. when we start recording. We've gotten our gremlins mostly out of the way.
Yes.
So that doesn't mean that we're still not going to time. This is not good. That doesn't necessarily mean that we will or will not start around the same time. But hey, we will give the old college a try. But regardless, you can always catch the audio the next day, whenever the network puts it out.
Alrighty.
Sometimes on a Friday, sometimes on Saturday. That, folks, this has been the Click Nation's Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. We out.
Good evening, Rick. Would you believe it's Dr. Doom?
What's on your